Step forward, lean up, draw the knife out of its sheath, raise the head for 3 points, and chop. A calm voice sounded. The girl with black hair and purple pupils, with a side ponytail, wearing a Ghost Slayer uniform, a knee-length black pleated skirt, white boots, and a white cloak with a dark pink bow tie followed the voice's instructions. The soft moonlight shone on the young girl's delicate face, with a bit of seriousness on her slightly dull face. The cold sword edge was pulled out from the scabbard, and the first 3 points were easily cut off the neck of the screaming evil spirit opposite. The solar energy contained in the Nichiren blades permeated the body of the ghost, and after a while of struggle, the ghost turned into black smoke and dissipated, leaving behind an unpleasant stench. An ordinary junior Oni was beheaded by Tsuyuri Kanao in this way. The sword is retracted into the sheath. Kanao took a few steps back, walked up to the man, looked up at him with his little head up. Good job. Sumiu patted Kanao on the head and couldn't help but praise. Although this is only a junior ghost, but Kanao can kill with his own strength at such a young age, which is already very good. You know, some ordinary swordsmen of the ghost killing team may not be able to deal with a ghost. Although, because of his pointing at the side. But Sumiu can see that Tsuyuri Kanao can kill ordinary evil spirits by himself as long as he has been in actual combat a few times, even without his own guidance. As expected, she deserves to be one of the heroines in the anime Demon Slayer, and Hanako Kanepe's talent is really amazing. Continue. He looked at the sky and frowned slightly. Today, while leading the Kanao trial, he was looking for the traces of Tioni. But unfortunately, after searching for so long, I almost searched all over Tang Chishan, but I couldn't find any trace of Tioni. This made him slightly irritated. Suddenly, as if feeling something, the ear moved slightly. Holding Kanao's little hand, the figures of the two quickly disappeared from the spot. At a treetop, Sumiu appeared holding Kanao's hand. Standing on the top of the tree, he stared down. A ferocious-looking evil spirit is grabbing a hair and gnawing on it wantonly. It can be seen that this ghost is really hungry. He swallowed the rabbit meat raw, scarlet blood flowing down the corner of his mouth. It looks pretty cruel. At this time, the breath of the ghost in front of her also fell into Suemiu's eyes. Name: Kota Takamoto Ghost Level. Evolution Ghost, Primary Ghost, Evolution Ghost, Lower String, Upper String, Ancestor of Ghost. Abilities: Immortal Body, Sharp, Ghost Claw, Super Healing, Ghost Leg, Super Bounce. Cons: Photophobia, Wisteria, Curse, from Kibutsuji Muzen, Nichiren Blades. Evolution Ghost. Sumiu was slightly surprised. He always thought that Tang Chishan had evolution ghosts besides Tioni, who was an evolution ghost. However, looking at the slight ups and downs of its aura, it can be seen that it has not been long since it became an evolutionary ghost. Who? As if sensing something, the ghost suddenly looked up, and suddenly saw Sumiu standing on the treetop. As well as Tsuyuri Kanao. Already. I don't remember how long I haven't eaten human flesh. It's been a year. The last time I ate human flesh was during the trial a year ago. He ate a member of the trial. The delicacy from the human body is really unforgettable. The greedy eyes moved away from Tsuyuri Kanao, and then fell on Sumiu. I can faintly feel the breath of ghosts on Sumiu. But a little uncertain. Similar. A hoarse voice sounded, with some doubts. No, Sumiu shook his head. He never thought that he was the same kind as this guy who devours people and flesh. The ghost's scarlet eyes were full of doubts, and he clearly felt the breath of a ghost from Sumiu. But never mind. He couldn't bear it any longer, and pointed at Tsuyuri Kanao. Give her to me, she is my food. While speaking, the ghost unconsciously licked his tongue, as if he could already feel the immature body of the little girl in front of him. Sumiu looked at the ghost in front of him with some amusement. Patted Kanao's little head. This ghost is a bit strong for Kanao. Kanao, give it a try. Kanao nodded, and lightly tapped the tree branch with his toes. The small figure fell down. The girl's white boots stepped on the ground, and her knee-length black pleated skirt fluttered slightly. Kanao tilted his head and looked at the evil spirit in front of him, stretched out his white and tender fingers, and then picked. With a unilateral ponytail swaying slightly with Tsuyuri Kanao. Court death. Seeing that such a weak girl is still so arrogant, I simply don't pay attention to him as a ghost. Almost instantly, he was angry. He decided not to eat the other party for a while. He wanted to torture the other party severely first. Crouching on all fours, it rushed towards Tsuyuri Kanao like a wild beast. Its speed was like a cannonball due to the ghost's legs and its super bouncing ability. Choke. The sharp sword edge slashed out, slashing at the face of the rushing ghost. Ghost claw. The dark ghost claws stretched out, directly meeting the Nichiren blades who were slashing. Clang. The collision of the metal plates produced fierce sparks. The strength of this ghost seems to be surprisingly great. Kanao let out a slight hum from the tip of his nose, and the petite figure couldn't help but back away. Go to hell. The ghost screamed, and the figure went away like a shadow, and its dark claws grabbed Kanao's delicate face. The purple pupils flickered slightly, and the evolution speed of the ghost was much faster than Kanao imagined, and there was no way to resist it. The ghost greedily stared at the little girl in front of him, and he could already imagine that he grabbed the girl's face with one paw, and cut open the tender flesh on the other's face. Just thinking about the tender skin made his mouth water a little. Plop. The ghost was still thinking about the beauty of the food, when suddenly there was a sharp pain in his head, and he fell down at Kanao's feet. At this moment, his head was directly crushed by a stone. Obviously, it was Su Mu on the treetop who shot. Kanao raised his head and looked at his fiancée. Kanao continues. Su Mu stood on the treetop and nodded to Kanao. Kanao clenched the hilt of his sword, touched the ground with his toes, and stepped back a little. Oh shit. The head was smashed so that it recovered in a short time. The ghost's shaking head stood up, looked at Su Mu who was still standing on the treetop. Did you smash it? Okay. Su Mu nodded. If you dare to disturb Lao Su's good affairs again, I will tear you up in a short while. The ghost looked gloomy. Kanao, cut him. Su Mu rolled her eyes and shouted to the girl underground. Shua. The girl gritted her teeth, pulled out the Nichiren blades, and slashed violently. Nichiren blades flashed by the icy cold wind, and the ghost only had time to turn its head away, but the sharp blade slid across. Pain. One of the ghost's arms was directly chopped off. The girl's slender figure stepped back slightly, and a rare frown appeared on her slightly numb and delicate face. He seemed to feel sorry for not being able to cut off the demon's head. F*K. Bitch, sneak attack, I'm going to tear you to pieces. The evil ghost roared, stretched out his hand, and the severed arm ran directly to the ghost's arm. Just one click. The arm healed. I'm going to tear you to pieces. The evil spirit roared angrily, and rushed towards Suyuri Kanawo at a faster and stronger speed in the next moment. The evil spirit rushed towards Suyuri Kanawo at a faster and stronger speed. The ghost claw waved, glowing with a sharp cold light. The girl also drew her sword immediately. The evil ghost is ferocious, attacking like a wild beast. 3 points upward with the sword, retreat. From the treetops, steady voices sounded continuously. Kanao pursed his lips, followed the guidance of the voice, and always escaped the attack of the evil spirits in the nick of time. Damn, hate. Damn it, the evil ghost roared and yelled at the ghost standing on the treetop, shut up. Kanao, keep cutting him. Su Mu didn't pay any attention to the ghost's words. The girl bared her teeth, and the sword in her hand moved faster. A couple of dogs and men, the evil spirit growled. Completely angry, the sharp ghost claws lay on the ground like a wild beast, which can be clearly seen, and the ground was scratched with deep marks by its claws. Boom, like a cannonball, it launched an indiscriminate bombing attack on Kanao. After all, there is a big gap between Kanao's strength and the strength of this evolutionary ghost, and he will be unable to deal with it in a short time. The speed is a bit too fast, and Kanao can't bear it. Su Mu on the treetop murmured slightly, well, then break his leg and slow down. Thinking like this, he did as Min did. The stone on hand was thrown violently, and it hit like a shell. The evil ghost who was lying on all fours and pounced on Kanao like a wild animal only felt a pain in his thigh. What? Howling in pain, he clutched his thigh and fell to the ground. One of his legs was directly smashed into two by the stone, and the broken thigh also fell not far away. Damn, hate. The goblin wants to call that thigh over, heal, and fight on. Call out. A branch was thrown from the tree again, directly inserting the broken thigh firmly into the ground, unable to move at all. The evil ghost wanted to go over, and the ghost's breath sounded again from the treetop. Kanao, continue to chop him. Damn it, hate it, you two bitch, I'm going to kill you guys. As soon as the evil ghost's lamb leg kicked the ground, his whole body jumped up instantly, waving his claws and attacking the ghost on the treetop. The results are go fast, come back fast. The evil ghost was directly smashed to the ground by Su Mu's fist. Blowing his fist, Su Mu shrugged his shoulders. Can't you be my precious fiancé's sparring partner? Kanao keeps cutting him, he shouted to the sword-wielding girl below. The evil ghost struggled to crawl out from the soil, first looked at the ghost on the treetop, and then at the girl with bared teeth who chopped at him with Nichiren blades. It understood that it was the training partner of the girl in front of it. Angry, unwilling. Obviously everyone is a ghost, and the girl in front of me is so attractive, wouldn't it be beautiful to eat her together? He raised his head and roared angrily. We are all ghosts. Why do you help this human being? Are you still a ghost? How about we eat this woman together? I won't eat it. I will eat it all for you. Hearing the desperate roar of the ghost below, Sumyu chuckled. Cut him. You evil ghost, hateful. The evil spirit roared, but what greeted it was the girl's cold sword edge. Boom. The head of an evil spirit was thrown out, and the girl knelt on the ground with one knee, panting violently, and drops of blood were sliding down the edge of the Nichiren blade supported by her hands. Hateful dogs and men. The head rolled to the ground, the mouth opened, and let out a final roar with anger and unwillingness, but in the end, it was invaded by the energy of the sun contained in Nichiren blades, and turned into a little black smoke and dissipated. All that was left was the stench. Su-Mu's figure landed in front of the girl kneeling on the ground. At this moment, Kanao is still breathing heavily. The battle just now has consumed too much of her strength. After all, her strength is not as good as that of an evolutionary ghost. If her fiancé hadn't been watching and protecting her, she might have. However, Kanao was very obedient and successfully hacked him to death. Kanao. Kanao. Kanao hacked him to death. The girl raised her head, panting. Su-Mu froze for a moment, her eyes widened instantly. It took a while to react. Immediately stepped forward and hugged Kanao, tightly wrapped his hands around Kanao's shoulders and waist, looked at Kanao excitedly. Kanao. What were you talking about just now? Kanao panted slightly. Kanao. Kanao hacked him to death. Suyuri Kanawa seemed to be speaking for the first time, and his articulation was obviously unclear. Stuttering, but for Su-Mu, it means too much. When she was young, Kanao grew up under the cold-blooded and ruthless domestic violence of her parents. Kanao was able to survive entirely because she relied on her own sharp vision to avoid being violently hit on vital parts by her parents. Her body, the brothers and sisters were not so lucky, and died directly under the violence of their parents. Because, as long as you cry, you will encounter your parents' fists and fists, as long as you speak, you may encounter violence. Gradually, Kanao has to endure his feelings. As time goes by, gradually, I can't feel pain, can't express my feelings, and can't speak anymore. Even if she later heard that her parents were going to sell her to traffickers, she wouldn't feel the slightest bit of sadness. It can be said that being able to speak means a lot. Kanao, can I speak? Kanao. Kanao was also stunned, with big purple eyes open, although the eyes still had a great sense of emptiness, but in the depths of the pupils of the eyes, a touch of emotion was slowly spreading. Yes, Kanao started to have emotions of his own. Su-Mu was really happy and hugged Kanao. After a while, he let go, took a step back, stared at Suyuri Kanawa with golden eyes, stretched out his hand, with a bit of seriousness. Hello. My name is Su-Mu, and I am Suyuri Kanawa, my future husband. Kanao's purple eyes blinked, and the focused holes were slightly clear. The little head was slightly tilted cutely, looking at the man in front of him, his beautiful eyes were slightly bent, forming a beautiful crescent shape. You. Hello. My name is Yi Waluo. Su Waluo. Kanao. Su Waluo Kanao, it's Mu, his future wife. The little hand slowly stretched out. The big hand held the small hand, and the two looked at each other. Against the soft moonlight, the figure of the girl is getting closer and closer. Eventually coincide with each other. The boy leaned over, and under the gaze of the girl's big purple eyes, he printed the girl's lips. Against the faint moonlight, Su-Mu and Suyuri Kanawa walk in the Fujirai mountain full of evil spirits. As Su-Mu intentionally exuded her powerful aura, there were no evil spirits who didn't know how to disturb their lives. The vines attacking the top of the mountain is a place where evil spirits ravage, but because it is a place where evil spirits ravage, most of the vegetation here has not been artificially destroyed. The trees are verdant and the vegetation is lush. In front of a stream, Su-Mu took Suyuri Kanawa and sat down on a rock, and the two of them stuck together, looking at the clear stream below. The water in the stream is very clear, and the fish swim happily. Kanao. Okay. The girl blinked her purple eyes. What's your name? My name is Kanao. Who are you? I'm Tsuyuri Kanao, the fiancé of Miu. The two sat by the pool, asking and answering, speaking very childlike words. Although Su Miu also felt that her question was naive, but seeing Kanao blinking his purple eyes and answering seriously, he found it very interesting. Right away, though, Su Miu didn't feel right. Before, relying on Kanao, his fiancé, who was unaware of the outside world, he had a lot of flirting with girls. Okay. One for Mikomo, one for Kochu Shinobu, one for Kochu Kanae. I wanted to flirt with Nezuko. Carefully looking at Kanao's side face, the girl is shaking her calves, and her white boots sometimes touch the surface of the stream, causing little ripples on the calm water. Kanao. When did you have your own emotions? Asked cautiously. Kanao turned his head and looked at him with purple eyes. When you tease my sister. Garden. My heart sank all of a sudden. There is a bad feeling. That what? Su Miu scratched her head and explained carefully. Actually, Sister Shinobi is very good, very beautiful, and very powerful. It's normal for Miu to like Sister Ninja. In fact, Sister Shinobu actually likes Sister Miu. Kanao doesn't really mind. After all, Kanao can't speak like that, won't. At first, Su Miu thought that Kanao was really so generous. But something always feels not right. Okay. The smell of vinegar is so strong. Seeing the girl continue to say, and Ms. Mikomo, she is also very cute, she has a beautiful smile. Kanae's sister is also very gentle. The more he said, the more aggrieved Tsuyuri Kanao felt. Heart unconsciously produce an indescribable, unknown sour taste. This is an emotion that I thought I had never had before. I just feel wronged. Obviously she is the fiancé of Miu. You should go to accompany them. Kanao is fine by himself. The girl's sour smell is almost so strong that it will turn into substance. Hey. Su Miu couldn't help scratching her head and laughing. Watching my little girlfriend eat my jealousy, I feel pretty cool. Just because I like it, I will be jealous. If a girl doesn't like you, how can she be jealous of you? Also, jealous Kanao is kinda cute. The eyes are no longer so empty, and with my own little emotions, I can slowly express my emotions and wishes. These are all developing in a good direction. After all, for a young girl like Tsuyuri Kanao, at this age, she should be in the bloom of youth, so what's the matter with being lifeless? You're still laughing. Tsuyuri Kanao raised his head, his purple eyes were fierce, as if breathing fire. Su Miu stretches out her hand to hold home. The first hit was knocked out by Kanao's little hand. Hold again, it was slapped off by the little hand again. Kanao's tender little hand was finally held by Su Miu. Turn your head around. You go to see. Miu, Sister Ninja's little hands are pretty, white and tender, and juicy. Miu should go and hold her hand. Full of sourness. Looking at the sour Tsuyuri Kanao, Su Miu is very smart. At this time, it is best not to entangle this topic with your little girlfriend, otherwise, the result will only become more and more troublesome. After all, it is inevitable for a little woman in love to get into a dead end. Well, I still think my Kanao's little hands are the best. They are soft and fragrant, like fine emeralds, warm and greasy. Where is it so good? Kanao lowered his head and muttered, his delicate face blushed unconsciously. Of course, in my eyes, my family's Chanapina is the most beautiful. The best women in the colorful world outside are not as good as Kanao. What Kochu Shinobu, what Mikomo, what Kochu Kanae, they are nothing compared to my Kanao. Su Miu looked at Tsuyuri Kanao and said without blinking. Although she clearly knew that her fiancé was coaxing her, Kanaping still felt a little bit of joy in her heart. In my heart, Kanao is the moon in the sky. The soft moonlight dispels the dark night and illuminates the darkness. Sweet words are sent to Kanao's ears without money. Where did this little girl arrive at Suemiu's candy shell, and she was coaxed by him in no time and her heart burst into joy. Then naturally he looked down, his golden eyes looked into Kanao's purple eyes. The girl was a little shy and wanted to escape from Suemiu's eyes, but she was a little bit reluctant. Su Miu lowered his head slowly, closed his eyes, and approached Tsuyuri Kanao slowly. The girl has long been coaxed by Suemiu's words, and her heart is full of sweet words from her fiancé. It feels like her heart is filled with nectar, not only sweet, but also sweet. The beautiful purple eyes are also slightly closed, and the little head is unconsciously raised, waiting. With the dark night and warm sunshine, in this place where evil spirits ravaged, the world suddenly became very quiet. The golden eyes and the purple eyes looked at each other. The bridges of the noses of the two were close, and the breathing between each other was clearly audible. Separated from each other, Kanao looked at Mujong. My heart is full of sweetness. When my family's Suyuri Kanao grows up, I will marry you. Su Mu took Kanao's little hand and spoke softly. Okay. Kanao lowered his head, a little shy in his heart, but also secretly happy, very jumpy feeling, as if he had eaten honey, and his heart was sweet. Full of yearning for the future. The purple eyes are slightly bent, forming a beautiful crescent shape, and those beautiful eyes are full of expectations for the future. Kanao needs to hurry up and grow up quickly, so that he can marry Mu. Thinking shyly in her heart, her eyes unconsciously peeked at the profile of her fiancé. I just feel that the eyes are full of fiancé's figure. My little heart was so full that I couldn't hold anything else. Although Tioni was not able to find Tioni and get rid of the scourge of the vine attacking the mountain, for Su Mu, this trip did not feel disappointing. On the contrary, I am very happy, because Kanao can finally express his will. I started to walk out of the closed world in my heart. This is a very happy thing, enough to wash away all the troubles. By the creek in Fujishishan, Su Mu and Kanao have been loving each other for a long time. Until late at night, Su Mu took Suyuri Kanao's little hand to the room prepared for them by the twin sisters of Yubayashiki's house. Although I still want to chat with Kanao for a while. But Su Mu knows that the habits of humans and ghosts are different. The human habit is to sleep at night and be active during the day. Ghosts are active at night and lazy during the day. Shang is still growing up now, so I can't always stay up late. This is responsible for Kanao, but also responsible for yourself. Lying on the warm quilt, Suyuri Kanao couldn't sleep. She can express her wishes. I can speak. Today, my fiancé said a lot of things to her, and those words were nice, warm, and warmed my heart. Is it because you have completed the task assigned by your fiancé, so you can speak? I remembered the state when I was dealing with that terrifying evolutionary ghost. She at that time her mind was full of what her fiancé said to her, Kanao, kill him. Then, she tried her best to kill the evolution ghost. Although that evolutionary ghost is very powerful, and Kanao is no match at all, she gritted her teeth and persisted. At that time, she had only one goal in her heart, and she must complete the things her fiancé told her. Trying his best, with the help of his fiancé, Kanao finally cut off the head of the evolved ghost with Nichiren blades by himself. At that time, she was full of satisfaction from fulfilling her fiancé's confession, and she couldn't help telling her fiancé that Kanao completed what you told her very well. Then it was natural to want to say it. Is it because? Is that so? That's why I was able to speak. This knowledge makes Kanao very happy. She has always been completely ignorant of the outside world. It's just that it has been closed in that dark, small world, isolated from the outside world. But Kanao is not a puppet, nor is it emotionless. It was the fiancé who changed himself. Saved her from that desperate world. This is the heart has already understood the importance. Thinking of the future. When I grow up, can become the wife of the shepherd, I feel very pleasantly surprised and very happy. He happily rolled on the bed with the quilt in his arms, but he didn't notice the width of the bed, and rolled off the bed all at once. Ouch. He touched his upturned buttocks. Suddenly, as if feeling something, the purple eyes lifted up. The raven flapped its wings and flew in along the window. Suyuri Kanao held out his small hand, and the raven landed in Kanao's hand. A small letter fell. Are you asleep? On the letter, it came from the familiar handwriting of Mu. Kanao immediately found a pen and paper in the room, frowned delicately, and after a little hesitation, replied, I haven't fallen asleep yet, Mu Zhang. Why haven't I fallen asleep yet? Seeing the raven flapping its wings and flying away, the girl's little heart was looking forward to the reply. In the next room, Su Shinya's reply letter. Then, he replied, I'm a ghost, I'm sure I won't be able to sleep at night, and if Kanao can't sleep either, then I'll come and sleep with you. When Kanao received the reply, he jumped up and down, grabbed the letter directly, covered the quilt, and didn't have the nerve to reply. In the other room, Su Mu waited for a long time, and did not wait for Kanao's reply until dawn, so she could only sigh depressedly. I can only look at the moon in the sky in a daze, and I feel so depressed when I think that I can't sleep with Kanao's fragrant body in my arms at night. In fact, before Kanao couldn't speak or express his wishes, he hugged Kanao most nights. In the next room, Kanao is also covering the quilt, carefully looking forward to the arrival of his fiancé. But wait. Wait. After waiting for a long time, Kanao's little head dozed off bit by bit, but he didn't wait. Finally, when it was almost dawn, Kanao couldn't stand it anymore. his little head tilted, and he fell asleep on the bed. Mujong. Why haven't you come yet? In confusion, Enla laughed. After spending a boring night counting the stars in the sky, Su Mu felt a little lazy during the day. Still want to sleep. But as soon as this idea came into being, there was a knock on the door. Putting on his clothes, bamboo hat, and cape with Kochu engraved on it, he opened the door. 2 girls in kimonos were standing respectfully at the door. Master Guzu, good morning. Master Guzu, good morning. Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Kona spoke almost in unison. Okay. He stretched himself, looking at the twin sisters Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hana who rushed over early in the morning. He was a little speechless. To bother me so early? It's very impolite, you know. Sorry. The 2 little girls immediately bowed down and apologized. People in this country are like this, they always like to bend over. Looking at the twin sisters who were scared because of a single word, Su Mu also understood that the pair of sisters couldn't stand a joke at all. What's matter? He looked at the twin sisters. Master, Ghost Pillar, today is the time for Kuo Shi Shan's trial and selection. Yubayashiki said in a low voice. There are already swordsmen who participated in the trial have come to Tang Chishan. Beside, Yubayashiki Hanai also whispered, so fast? Su Mu frowned slightly, he hasn't got rid of Tioni from the back of the mountain. Yes, Lord Ghost Zu. Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Kona answered at the same time. Then take me there. Su Mu nodded. Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Kona bowed respectfully, and each led the way with a lantern. Seeing the 2 girls lighting up lanterns during the day, Su Mu was slightly surprised, but she didn't ask much. Just quietly followed the 2 girls. He just raised his eyes and looked at the top of the vine attacking the mountain, with a slight coldness in his eyes. On weekdays, Tioni hides very deeply, so when the trial begins, this Tioni will still hide, right? Wisteria flowers bloom like fireworks, densely packed from the foot of the mountain to the mountainside, forming a sea of flowers. A gust of wind blows, and the petals of the wisteria flowers fall profusely, covering the ground with a carpet made of wisteria flowers. A number of swordsmen who participated in the final assessment of the Fuji Attack Mountain assessment came from all over the place, and finally gathered in a wide square halfway up the mountain. Hey, I don't know if I can pass the Tang Chishan assessment. Also, I don't know what a ghost looks like. Will it be scary? A person who participated in the trial sighed to a friend next to him. Have you heard? The people who participated in the assessment this year are really amazing. One person whispered softly, who is it? I heard that it was cultivated by Master Yorokodaki Sakanji of Water Pillar. A female disciple named Makomo was very strong. Before the Tang Chishan assessment, several evil spirits died in her hands. So smart. The person who was lamenting that he had never seen a ghost just now opened his mouth wide. You do not say. Someone echoed. Would you like to form a team with her during the trial? Will definitely be safe with such a master by his side. The eyes of the others lit up when they heard the sound. I advise you not to take this idea. A young man with black hair and blue eyes, thick eyebrows, wearing a jade pendant and bracelet came over and spoke lightly. Everyone couldn't help looking at him. Why? Someone couldn't help asking. Do not you know? The black-haired and blue-eyed man stared at each other. Master Water Pillar. Yorokodaki Sakanji had raised 13 disciples before, and before each disciple came to participate in the Tengshi mountain trial, which one was not quite famous, but the result. What's the result? Someone asked. The result is that none of the 13 disciples of Master Water Pillar Yorokodaki Sakanji passed the Tang Attack mountain trial, and each of them died in the trial. Everyone gasped when they heard the words. 13 disciples, that is almost all the disciples cultivated in these years, but none of the disciples survived, because the ghost who attacked the mountain was too strong. Still is, Water Pillar Yorokodaki Sakonji's disciples are all vain? Or, Water Pillar Yorokodaki Sakanji, dare to ask your excellency's name. Someone couldn't help asking the black-haired and blue-eyed man. Below, Kaigaku, the chief disciple of former Naruto, Kuwajima Jigoru. Kaigaku nodded proudly. Ah, it turned out to be the first disciple of Kuwajima Jigoru, what a blessing. Sure enough, he is worthy of being a senior disciple, he has real skills at first glance. When they heard the name of Master Kaigaku, everyone couldn't help being in awe. About the achievements of the former Naruto, Kuwajima Jigoru, everyone has heard about it recently. Kuwajima Jigoru killed many Giwu in his life in the Demon Slayer squad. Because he lost his right leg in a battle with 12 Kazuki, he had no choice but to live in seclusion in Momoyama. Recently, I heard that in order to deal with the ghost ancestor Kibutsuji Muzan, he resolutely went out of the mountain regardless of his age, and eventually died in the hands of Kibutsuji Muzan. It can be described as heroic. With such a master, where will his disciples go? Hearing the compliments from the crowd, Wei Yu was also quite proud, with his head raised high. But at this time, there was a burst of roaring sound from the foot of the mountain. Then there was a scream, and a disciple participating in the trial knocked down several wisteria trees, struggled for a long time, but failed to get up. At this time, a girl wearing a fox mask with a flower pattern on her cheek appeared. The fox mask covered the girl's face, making it impossible to get a glimpse of her appearance, but through the girl's exposed white and rosy tender skin, one could feel what kind of face would be under the fox mask. The girl's eyes were clear, and her long black hair flowed in the wind, making her look extremely beautiful. The girlish temperament is slightly weak, but it also has an inexplicable cuteness and cunning. You are so ruthless. Falling under the wisteria tree, the disciples who participated in the trial pointed at Makomo with resentment on their faces. Makomo just glanced at the other party lightly, and told the other party to close his mouth immediately, and dared not say anything again. At this moment, he regretted a bit. He just wanted to see the woman's face under the fox mask, so he wanted to go forward to uncover the fox mask, but just stretched out his hand. Before she realized what was going on, the whole person was kicked out by this woman. Now that I think about it, I can't help being shocked. Makomo's pair of beautiful eyes ignored the surrounding gazes, just stood there quietly, and her pair of beautiful eyes looked into the distance from time to time. It seems to be waiting for something. Makomo has heard from her master that the host of the trial this time is Mu Zhong. For this reason, she specifically asked her brother to avoid defeat and deprive him of the opportunity of the trial. She seems to be Makomo. It looks amazing. It doesn't matter how powerful you are, don't you know? She is a disciple of Yorokodaki Sakanji of the Water Pillar. She participated in the Tengshi Mountain assessment. I am afraid that there will be no heroes. After all, the first 13 Yorokodaki Sakanji disciples failed the assessment and died in the Teng Chishan. Makomo naturally heard the discussions around her, and clenched his little fist unconsciously. Makomo didn't care much about how to talk about her, but questioning the master made Makomo very angry. You know, she and the rabbit were adopted by Yorokodaki Sakanji, the water column, since they were young, and they have long regarded Yorokodaki Sakanji as a father-like existence. Hateful. Makomo squeezed his small fist. He looked directly at a person who said his master's trial. Choke. Almost without hesitation, immediately drew out the sword. A cold light flashed, and a strand of hair fell down. If you dare to spray dung all over your mouth, what will fall will not be your child's hair, but your human head. The girl's eyes narrowed slightly, but her lovely face carried a great evil spirit. All was silent for a while. Crack clack. There was the sound of crisp footsteps, and two girls in kimonos with lanterns in their hands came slowly. Thank you for coming to participate in the final selection of the ghost killing squad. In this Tengshi Mountain, the ghosts captured alive by the swordsmen of the ghost slaughter squad are imprisoned. Please pay attention. Starting from the mountain on this road, there is no longer the protection of the wisteria flower forest, and ghosts can move freely at night. To be able to survive 7 days and 7 nights in Teng Chishan is to complete the final selection of Teng Chishan and become a qualified swordsman of the ghost killing team. Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hanai walked to the high platform, looked at Lord Oniju, and got the consent of Lord Oniju, and began to explain the rules. Most of the people who came to participate in the ghost killing squad knew the rules. Even so, many people's faces became more solemn at this moment. Now, let's get started. In the end, Su Mu announced directly, the final assessment of the ghost killing team has begun. After the words fell, a person who participated in the assessment also entered the mountain road. Su Mu didn't care about these people, but his eyes fell on Makomo who followed him. The two looked at each other from a distance, and unexpectedly smiled at the same time. Mushroom Sauce, Junjo walked up to Su Mu, and took off his fox mask, revealing his pretty face. Su Mu stepped forward, stretched out her finger, and gently scratched Makomo's little nose. Just now, she was a Valkyrie who was in front of everyone, and strangers should not enter, but at this moment, she was obediently like a kitten. Seeing Su Mu's actions against Makomo, some of the people who participated in the trial could not help but widen their eyes. They were not only surprised by the change of Makomo's attitude towards the man in front of him. I was even more surprised by Suemyu's intimacy towards Makomo. After all, now Suemyu is a pillar. No wonder you are so arrogant. It turns out that there are pillars backing you up. A person muttered in a low voice. Makomo's ears are very sharp, so he heard it all at once, turned his head suddenly, and narrowed his beautiful eyes slightly. For a split second, the person who was muttering just now seemed to be stared at by a terrible monster. He couldn't help but backed up a few steps, and his face turned pale all of a sudden. Seeing that the other person's face turned pale from being frightened by him, Makomo glanced at his mouth in disdain, but lost interest in making trouble for the other party. Makomo. Suemyu stroked Makomo's small nose, and finally landed on the flower-patterned fox mask Makomo was wearing. This fox mask is unique to the sect of Urokodaki Sakanji, the water pillar. It is called the disaster mask, and is used to pray for the safe return of the person who carries it. But it is a pity that none of the first 13 disciples who wore such disaster relief masks were able to come back. The reason is that this unique disaster mask was put on by Tioni, a strange-shaped ghost hidden in Tengshi Mountain. Tioni is a ghost who was captured by Urokodaki Sakanji, the water column, more than 40 years ago, in the Edo period, and imprisoned in Tioni Mountain. These years, Tioni has been struggling to survive in the Tengji Mountain trial, and as he continues to devour the disciples who participated in the trial, his strength has become stronger and stronger, and finally, he took aim at the disciple under the name of Urokodaki Sakanji who once captured him. During the trial, be careful, he said seriously to Makomo. Don't worry, Mujong, I will definitely pass the final assessment. Makomo patted his own small chest and said confidently. In any case, be cautious. Suemyu patted Makomo's little head. He is naturally aware of Makomo's strength. Ordinary evolutionary ghosts are not necessarily Makomo's opponents now. The Tengshishan ghost is the only ghost that really threatens Chezang. I will be careful. Makomo's small face was also tense, showing a serious expression. She participated in the final assessment of Tengshishan not only for herself. She doesn't allow herself to fail. Suemyu nodded. Go. Makomo is also covered with a fox mask, and her delicate face is covered by a cute fox mask. Watching the disappearance of Jengu's figure, he is not at ease with Makomo, although he feels that Tioni is not Makomo's opponent now, but he is still afraid of it. When all the members left and there was no one in the empty square, Suemyu was also ready to go in. However, just after taking 2 steps, they were blocked by the sisters Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hana. Master, Ghost Pillar. After the assessment officially starts, official members are not allowed to enter, so as not to interfere with the participants of the assessment. As long as it doesn't exceed the test limit strength, I won't interfere. Suemyu shook her head. That's not okay, it's a rule. Yubayashiki Hika's small face tightened. That's it. Suemyu touched her chin. Seeing Suemyu like this, Yubayashiki Hinaka thought Lord, Ghost Pillar, had given up, and couldn't help but feel a little relieved. Just when she relaxed slightly, Suemyu's palm moved suddenly and hit Yubayashiki Rika directly on the back of the head. Yubayashiki's eyes were full of little stars at the moment of intuition, and she was knocked unconscious by Suemyu directly, and her body also fell backwards withered. Suemyu stretched out her arms and embraced Yubayashiki Rishong in her arms. Master, Ghost Pillar, you. Beside, Yubayashiki Hana's eyes widened, and he was about to say something, but before he could say anything, he stepped into his sister's end and was knocked unconscious by him. After setting up the 2 unconscious sisters, Suemyu also embarked on the road to the top of Tengshi Mountain. Since it was daytime, he was not in a hurry. Time passed slowly. Unknowingly, the sun went down and night fell. Without sunlight, ghosts also began to haunt. Whoosh whoosh. A girl wearing a fox mask deftly moves through the jungle. The graceful and slender figure seems to be dancing. The girl's black mid-length hair fluttered wantonly with the wind. Are there a lot of ghosts here? Makomo's figure fell on a tree branch, looking at the evil spirits in the ground, his lips slightly faded. What makes her frown slightly is that these ghosts are not strong, they are all ordinary ghosts, not to mention that they are far from their opponents now, even if they are not opponents before training with Mujong. How did such a weak ghost kill his 13 senior brothers and sisters? Very unacceptable. After all, brothers, the strength of the teachers is not weak. Roar. On the ground, an evil spirit found Makomo, lying on the ground like a wild beast, and the next moment, it stepped on the ground and attacked Makomo like a cheetah. Water breathing one shape. Water surface slash. The sword was unsheathed, and the cold light flickered, and the body of the evil ghost that rushed over suddenly became stiff, and then dissipated in black smoke. Put the sword back into its sheath. Makomo's slender figure fell to the ground. Are they all such weak ghosts? If so, how did senior brother and senior sister fall? Boom. The vibration suddenly occurred. The girl under the fox mask suddenly opened her eyes and looked forward. Ahead, a group of people were fleeing crazily. All of them showed panic, as if they saw something extremely frightening. Frowning slightly, those who can participate in the Tang Chishan assessment basically know that they have to face ghosts. What else is something more terrifying than ghosts? Boom. A ghost with an extremely large figure walked towards it, and with every step, the ground shook slightly. This evil ghost is very large in size. Just standing there, it gives people an extremely terrifying feeling. This is not a ghost that the swordsman who participated in the trial can deal with at all. Is it because of this ghost? Makomo whispered slightly, and the pair of beautiful eyes under the fox mask narrowed slightly. And with the appearance of Tioni, Sumyu not far away also raised his head suddenly. Tioni? I wonder if Makomo can deal with it? A little worried. After all, in the anime, Makomo once had an advantage in the battle against Tioni, but Tioni suddenly used a trick to say that he had eaten many of Rinaki's disciples, which made Makomo unable to accept this sad fact, causing the action to start becoming dull. Tioni took the opportunity to tear off his limbs, and was eventually eaten by him. Run. Panicked, fleeing people kept passing in front of Makomo. Makomo stepped lightly, against the flow of people, and walked towards the huge alien ghost with a lot of wrists wrapped around his body. Are you crazy and still not running? A pale swordsman couldn't bear it, turned his head, and yelled at Makomo. Makomo smiled. Under the fox mask, the beautiful and moving face was covered by the fox mask and could not be seen, but the blinking eyelashes flickered, like the brightest star under the night sky. I'll cut off the ghost's head with my own hands. The girl smiled. The person who was stunned by the reminder for a moment, stood in the same place blankly, until the huge vibration of the ground woke him up, until he turned his head, looked at the huge Tioni, and ran away in a panic. In the distance, on a tree, Kaigaku shook his head while watching Makomo going upstream towards Tioni. The disciples of Water Column are indeed so arrogant, no wonder none of them have successfully passed Tang Chishan's final assessment in these years. Shaking his head, he looked at the huge Tioni. Even if it is him, he dare not compete with him. This person is really looking for a dead end. Leaving her alone, Kaigaku quickly fled in one direction. In Kaigaku's view, Makomo was just looking for his own death. The ground shaking stopped, and Tioni with a huge figure stopped in his tracks. Scarlet eyes looked at the girl wearing a fox mask standing in front of her. Looking at the familiar mask. In his mind, he suddenly recalled the Edo period decades ago, when a person wearing such a similar mask captured him to Tang Chishan. Now, he has been imprisoned here for decades. Decades. He has been imprisoned in this place for decades, which made him hate the person who captured him and imprisoned him. Although, these years have eaten 13 of that person's disciples, but still can't understand the hatred. Another year of trials. That person sent his disciples again. Here we go again. My cute little fox. Tioni licked his tongue and looked at Makomo with great pleasure. Sigh? Makomo murmured, his beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and a dangerous breath began to emanate. Haha. In this wisteria cage, I have already eaten 50 people, and among them, 13 are people like you who wear masks. Unforgivable. Makomo clenched her fingers tightly, and bit her lip tightly with her white and tender teeth. A thread of blood was bitten out. In Makomo's heart, those brothers and sisters who have been with her are almost like her relatives. And this ghost ate her 13 relatives. Unforgivable. An astonishing killing intent emerged from Makomo's body. I have already decided to eat all of that guy's disciples. You are all disciples of Yorokodaki Sakanji, right? I am really too familiar with it, too familiar. The way she sculpts the mask is almost exactly the same as the Tengu mask she wears. Did he tell you that this is a mask to ward off evil spirits? But, because of wearing this mask, they were all eaten by me. It's all in my stomach. It's like being killed by Yorokodaki Sakanji. Ha ha. Tioni laughed, as if recalling the good old days. Drops of tears fell from the eyelashes, crystal clear. Looking at the sad little girl in front of him, Tioni laughed happily. Just thinking about it, Lin Taki's disciple died again. Look up and look at the moon in the sky. My disciple didn't come back. What would that guy think? What expression will it be? Want to see? I really want to see it. As Tioni said, More than a dozen hands as thick as trees moved towards Junju and grabbed them. Unforgivable, unforgivable. Makomo raised his head, his fair face was already wet with tears. Unforgivable. The howling wind hit, and the wrist as thick as a tree grabbed Makomo. Choke. Nichiren blades unsheathed. The clear cold sword glow flickered. Crack. Click. Accompanied by a crisp sound, one of Tiona's arms was cut off, and the girl walked forward with light steps. One by one arm struck and was cut off again. Scarlet blood covered the ground. However, every time Makomo cuts off an arm, a new arm will immediately grow out. Just chop off your hands, you can't beat me. However, none of the 13 boys in front could cut off my head. Makomo raised his head and narrowed his beautiful eyes under the fox mask. Now. It's up to me to end you. Makomo straightened his body, holding the Nichiren blades tightly, his eyes fixed on the grasping arms one after another. Breathe, concentrate. Breathe. Water breath 2 types, water wheel. The girl leapt into the air, and after spinning around in the air, she issued a circular fire slash. The raised sword blade flashed across in an instant. All arms, emptied in an instant. Even with the healing power of a ghost, Tione couldn't help but let out a muffled, HMPH, if so many arms were cut off all at once. Water breathing. 3 shapes, flowing and dancing. The girl's body moved at a high speed like a stream of water, and because she moved too fast, only a few afterimages were left behind wherever she passed. The raised blade suddenly fell, slashed at Tiona's neck. You can't bear to wear my neck. Tione sneered, just like the 13 disciples in front of the girl in front of him, none of them could cut off its neck. Crack. A crisp sound sounded. A cold sword glow flashed, and Tiona's huge head was thrown flying. How? How is it possible? Tione let out an unbelievable roar, but with the intrusion of Nichiren Blade's solar energy, Tiona's figure soon disappeared into a little bit of black smoke, leaving Song Yu Na Panshin's stench in place. At this moment, Makomo felt that he seemed to see 13 brothers and sisters smiling at him. I did it. Makomo murmured, but raised his eyes, looking at a black shadow wearing a bamboo hat passing under a tree. Mu Zhong has been watching me from behind me, protecting me. Makomo murmured softly, which could be clearly felt from the moment he stepped in. I didn't disappoint Master again. At the same time, I didn't disappoint Mu Zhong either. Makomo murmured softly, raised his head, and the soft moonlight shone under the girl's cute fox mask. Thank you, Mu-chan, it has been a lifetime honor to meet you. Brothers and sisters, let's go all the way. Seeing Makomo beheading Tione with a sword, Su Mu was also quietly relieved and stopped paying attention. Quietly recede. Tione, the most powerful ghost on Mount Fujishiki, was killed by Makomo, and the other ordinary ghosts are even less likely to be Makomo's opponents. Unknowingly, when he became stronger, Makomo also became stronger. In my mind, I unconsciously remembered what Makomo said to myself before, I won't let you walk in the dark alone. An inexplicable feeling of warmth emerged in my heart. But he shook his head again. Although Makomo has become much better now, this little girl is still far behind. At least let's talk about it after becoming a pillar. Since nothing will happen to Makomo, Su Mu will naturally not stay here any longer, and his figure returns quietly. Back at the residence, looking at Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hana who were still in a coma after being knocked out by themselves, I couldn't help but smile wryly. If he had known that Makomo could deal with Tione by himself, he wouldn't have. However, even knowing that Tione is not Makomo's opponent, Su Mu felt that even if it happened again, he would still choose to knock out the twins and sneak in. Because, he is worried about Makomo facing Tione alone. And with the arrival of Su Mu, Suyuri Kanao, who has been standing still and staring at the Yubayashiki sisters, also felt something, and turned his head full of surprise. Mujong. Suyuri Kanao shouted happily. All of a sudden ran in front of him and hugged him. Su Mu patted Kanao's head lightly, thinking of the scene he saw before entering the house. Just now, Kanao has been standing there, motionless, his eyes never leave the sisters Yubayashiki for a moment. Have you been standing there staring at them? He patted Kanao's small head and asked with some doubts. Suyuri Kanao nodded his head. Then why doesn't Kanao find a chair to sit on? Isn't it tiring to stand and watch the two of them all the time? I'm not tired. Kanao doesn't feel tired doing things for Mu-chan. And, Mu Zhong didn't tell me to sit down. Listening to Kanao's answer, Su Mu felt both happy and confused. Because although Kanao began to have his own emotions and will, he was able to speak and express his feelings. But there is a lack of autonomy. Yes. It seems that the will is waiting for its own order. I had knocked Yubayashiki sisters unconscious before, so I took Yubayashiki sisters to Suyuri Kanao's room and asked her to take a look. Then when he came back, he saw that Kanao had been standing there, looking at the pair of sisters. Never sat down, and rarely moved. All I know is to simply fulfill my orders. Fulfill your orders without compromise. If Suyuri Kanao is simply his subordinate, then there is no problem. But Suyuri Kanao is not. She is his fiancée. Is an independent entity. Slightly squatting down, his golden eyes looked at Kanepé. Suyuri Kanao thought he had done something wrong, and unconsciously pinched the black pleated skirt with his little hands. Is there something wrong with Kanao? Suyuri Kanao asked nervously. Is Kanao not obedient enough? Next time, Kanao will definitely be more obedient. This time, Mujong asked me to look at them. Kanao failed to do well, during the period, blink 60 times, sorry. Next time, Kanao will definitely be able to blink a lot less. Close your eyes. When Su Mu heard this, she felt a little distressed. Suyuri Kanao was very obedient, he closed his eyes obediently. Su Mu stretched out his hand, and gently performed eye exercises for Kanao. The gentle hand caressed Kanao, making Kanao feel as if a warm coolness had brushed over his tired eyes, which made him feel very comfortable. Kanao, you are doing well. Su Mu patted Kanao's head and said seriously, but, it's because it's so good, so I feel sorry for you. Kanao opened his eyes and looked at Mujong with some puzzlement. Kanao, you are my fiancé, not my attachment. You have to live for yourself. He looked at Kanao and said seriously. Kanao's existence is not due to carrying out its own orders. She should live for herself. Suyuri Kanao murmured, raised his head, and looked at Mujong in confusion. For myself, such a thing, she never thought of. When she was very young, she grew up under the violence of her parents. As long as she was disobedient, she would be beaten, and as long as she cried, she would encounter violence. So slowly I feel that being obedient is a matter of course in my life. Although she tried hard to be obedient, she was sold to traffickers by her parents, but Kanao didn't feel sad. For Kanao, it's the same whether it's with the parents or the traffickers. They listen to others and carry out their orders. Even if it was the same here at Mujong at the beginning. But gradually it's different. No matter where she was with her parents or under any circumstances, she followed orders simply by being obedient. No matter whether she was willing or not in her heart, she just performed them mechanically and simply. But here in Mujong she happily fulfilled everything that Mujong asked, but it was not simply obedient, but something she was willing to do herself. She is used to listening to Mu Yang's words. I also like to listen to Mu Yang's words. If there is no order from Mujong, she will feel very confused. Kanao thinks that Mujong is the big tree, and himself is the vine attached to the big tree. Without the support of the big tree, she would have no support. Live for yourself, such a thing, Kanao never thought about it. Kanao said in a low voice, tightly grasping Kanao's little hand, staring at Kanao with golden eyes. From now on, Solid Ping will live for himself. But what is it like to live for yourself? Kanao looked at Su Mu in confusion. Su Mu was also taken aback. Live for yourself. This sentence seems simple, but if you really want to explain it, it is not a good answer. After thinking for a long time, he took Kanao's little hand and explained according to his own understanding. That is, Kanao listens to his inner voice and decides according to his own will. Do what Kanao desires and desires in his heart. What is your heart's desire, your wish? Kanao's beautiful purple eyes were full of confusion, and they closed slowly. After a while, I opened my eyes. Understand? He looks at Kanao. Kanao nodded heavily. Su Mu was slightly surprised, but also very happy. Now, what is Kanao's desire and hope? What Kanao desires now, all he hopes is to become Mu Yang's wife, and then defeat all the vixens who seduce Mujong. Buzz. Su Mu feels that her mind is a little. Scalp numbness. Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hana woke up faintly, only feeling a little pain in the back of their heads. We seem to have been knocked out. Yubayashiki Hinaka looked at her sister Yubayashiki Kona with uncertainty. Master, Ghost Pillar, did it. Yubayashiki Hana clenched his small fist in affirmation. She saw Master, Ghost Pillar, knocking her sister unconscious while her sister was not paying attention, then looked at her fiercely, and then knocked her nose too. Ah. Not good. Master, Ghost Pillar, knocked us out, so he must be going to the top of the mountain. Yubayashiki Hika suddenly thought of something, and her complexion changed drastically. Tang Chishan's final assessment is about the continuation of the future blood of the ghost killing team, and has its own set of rules, although such rules may have loopholes of one kind or another. But it is precisely because of such rules that the blood of the ghost killing team has never been cut off, and the team of the ghost killing team has become stronger and stronger. And they themselves are from the Yubayashiki family who founded the ghost killing team. As members of the Yubayashiki family, the rules of the ghost killing team are almost engraved in their bones. They don't want to see others violate the rules of the Ghost Slayer squad. Even the vicious Lord Ghost Pillar is no exception. Go and stop Master Ghost Zu. The two sisters hurriedly stood up and ran out of the door in a panic. But found out. At the door, is Master Ghost Pillar, just standing there? Master Ghost Pillar didn't go to the top of the mountain? A doubt appeared in the hearts of the two sisters. What did Master Ghost Pillar do for knocking them out? Master Ghost Pillar shouted almost in unison. Su Mu, who was talking with Kanao, turned her head and looked at the pair of Yubayashiki sisters, and couldn't help laughing. It's Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hanai. Being warmly greeted by Master Ghost Zu. The Yubayashiki sisters were also a little confused, but they still followed the etiquette immediately, first bowed respectfully to Su Mu, and then raised their pretty little faces. Ghost Zu, Your Excellency didn't go to the top of the mountain? What am I going to do at the top of the mountain? Su Mu blinked her big golden eyes and looked at Sister Yubayashiki curiously. Yubayashiki Hika and Yubayashiki Hana looked at each other unconsciously, and both of them couldn't help but have doubts in their eyes. Could it be that they were beaten by Lord Ghost Pillar, because they prevented Lord Ghost Pillar from going to the top of the mountain? Fainted? If it wasn't for this reason, what would Master Ghost Pillar do if he knocked them out? Some want to ask, but looking at the fierce Lord Ghost Pillar, the two sisters were inexplicably guilty and didn't dare to ask any more questions. After all, Master Ghost Zu is a ghost. I heard that ghosts are going to eat people when they get angry. Their sisters are not fat. Will Master Ghost Pillar suddenly turn into a vicious ghost and eat them in one bite? Seeing the Yubayashiki sisters who were suddenly timid, Su Mu didn't talk to them much anymore. To be honest, he was still a little guilty. After all, he knocked out the two sisters, and he did go to the top of the mountain, only to find that Makomo killed Tioni soon, put down the worrying stone in his heart, and returned soon. So, it didn't take too much time. I happen to be hungry, can you go and make me some food? He looked at Sister Yubayashiki and said, Okay, Lord Ghost Pillar. Sister Yubayashiki bowed, and retreated with a mind full of confusion. Time passed slowly. The 7 days will soon be over. This also means that Tang Chishan's final selection is over. On the morning of the last day, when the first ray of sunlight rose, he walked out the door wearing a black bamboo hat and a cloak woven by Kochu Kanae. The Yubayashiki sisters had been waiting for each other with a lantern. Waiting for the Yubayashiki sisters, there are also a group of swordsmen and some, hidden, from the ghost killing team. They will be responsible for finding the survivors on the top of the mountain. After all, not all those who participated in the trial were able to walk back safely. Master Ghost Pillar. The trial is over, it's time for the Dam Lord to preside over it. Yubayashiki sisters bent over. Okay. Su Mu nodded. The Yubayashiki sisters hurriedly each held a lantern to lead the way. Su Mu also stepped forward. Kanao followed Su Mu closely with a handful of Nichiren blades in his hand. The Nichiren blades were casually picked up by Su Mu from Kuri, the weapon of the Demon Slayer squad, after he became the Ghost Pillar of the Demon Slayer squad. Speaking of which, as a pillar, he can choose his own unique Nichiren blades weapon, and create his own Nichiren power according to his own mind. If he has time, he will go to Forging Knife Village to take a look. Like the Yubayashiki sisters, Su Mu stood on the platform on the mountainside and waited quietly. This is the only way to go down the mountain. If there are people who come back from the assessment, this way must be returned. If he can still survive in Tang Chishan within 7 days, he will naturally pass the test. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no one waiting, which made Su Mu frown. Even the Yubayashiki sisters couldn't help but look back at Lord Ghost Zu suspiciously. They remembered that 7 days ago, Master Ghost Zu secretly knocked them over. After waiting for a long time, a rather embarrassed man came out. The young man with black hair and green eyes, thick eyebrows, and wearing a jade pendant and bracelet, if he guessed correctly, should be Duyue, a disciple of former Naruto, Kuwajima Jigoru. I've seen Master Ghost Pillar. As soon as Kaigaku came out, he immediately bowed and saluted. He had already found out that Su Mu was the Lord Ghost Pillar, who was being assessed by Abbot Tang Chishan. It is the high-level pillar of the ghost killing team. So, some fawning. Su Mu glanced at the other party indifferently. He knew Weiyu's past history. He was a selfish villain. Although Master Ghost Pillar was indifferent, Kaigaku didn't think too much about it, thinking that Master Ghost Pillar had such a character, so after saluting, he respectfully stood aside. At this moment, he was quite happy in his heart. He successfully survived for 7 days on the top of the mountain, which meant that he had successfully become a swordsman of the ghost team. Su Mu waited quietly, and the time passed slowly. Although he didn't realize that Makomo would appear unexpectedly, but he couldn't wait for Jengu to come back, which made his heart flutter. It's not really an accident, is it? Until, as the early morning mist dissipated, surrounded by a crowd, a woman wearing a cute fox mask came out with light steps. Sister Yubayashiki also stared wide-eyed at the crowd approaching at once. There are a lot of people who passed the assessment this time. It can be said that there should be more than 200 people who participated in the assessment, but there were almost 130 people who came out at almost the same time. It was the most successful assessment in the history of the Ghost Slayer squad. Seeing Makomo coming out, Su Mu also breathed a sigh of relief. He was really worried just now, but he was slightly taken aback when he saw the people coming out of. The number of people is really too many. Although the ghosts on the top of the mountain are nothing to Makomo, it is still a very big test for those ordinary trial members, not to mention, they have to stay on the top of the mountain surrounded by ghosts for 7 days. However, looking at the reverent gazes of the boys and girls clustered behind the fox mask girl, he probably saw something. This little fox is really surprising. Don't mind your own business. The girl walked over with light steps. Her black middle-length hair was blowing with the wind. She stood quietly in front of him. She untied the fox mask she had been wearing on her face, revealing her pretty face. Congratulations. He looked at Makomo and smiled. From today onwards, Makomo has truly become a swordsman of the Demon Slayer squad. However, looking at the boys and girls who looked at Makomo with reverence behind them, it seems that becoming a swordsman is not as simple as it seems. Yubayashiki Mansion, Lord Yubayashiki Kagaya was standing quietly by the window, as if waiting for something. Father. Behind him, a black-haired Yubayashiki Kiryu with a similar appearance but dressed in women's clothing looked up worriedly at his father, who had been standing here for a long time. This worried Yubayashiki Kiryu as a son, but he naturally knew what his father was waiting for. After all, today is the end of Tang Chishan's final assessment and trial. This year, how much fresh blood will pour into the siege team? Has the news arrived? The master, Yubayashiki Kagaya, turned his head and looked at his son Yubayashiki Kiryu quietly. His physical condition is getting worse and worse. Now he has begun to train his son Yubayashiki Kiryu intentionally. It's just that Yubayashiki Kiryu is still too young. Whether it is dealing with the problem or looking at the problem, it seems too immature, and their enemy is Kibutsuji Muzan, which really worries him. The news came back. Yubayashiki Kiryu replied with some joy. Well, let's talk. Yubayashiki Yao nods. There are a total of 134 people who passed the assessment this time, and among them, the most outstanding is the disciple of Water Pillar, Yorokodaki Sakanji. Yubayashiki Kiryu hastily told the information that came. Listening to his son's words, Kazuya Yanayushiki was slightly taken aback. So much? Will not have any problems? Yubayashiki Kagaya is a little worried. This time the person who presides over the assessment is Su Mu, who has become the new pillar, if the other party interferes with the rules. After all, these people participating in the assessment will eventually embark on the journey of fighting ghosts. If they don't rely on their own abilities, then they will go to the battlefield in the future, I'm afraid. No. According to the information from Sister Rishong and younger sister Hangnai, although Master Ghost Pillar has made some small moves, they should not affect the trial too much. According to the information that came, it should be. Water Pillar, Yorokodaki Sakonji's disciple Makomo, with his own power, almost killed all the ghosts on the top of the mountain, and now, almost everyone who passed the test admires Miss Makomo. Master Water Column has produced an excellent disciple. Yubayashiki Kagaya sighed slightly, and couldn't help thinking of the first 13 disciples trained by Ranaki. They were also excellent. What a pity. By the way, what about Ghost Zoo? He should be back. It just so happens that Hua Zhu is also going to investigate the affairs of the Bliss cult of the world, and it is just right for him to go with him. Master, Ghost Pillar, left for Nashin Spider Mountain, saying he wanted to kill December. Yubayashiki Kirya hurriedly spoke out the information he got. That TN Spider Mountain? Yubayashiki Kagaya frowned slightly. Is there any information about ghosts near Nada Spider Mountain? According to the news from the hermit in charge around Nashin Spider Mountain, many people have disappeared there recently. There are rumors of ghosts, but there is no more news. Hearing what his son said, Yubayashiki Kagaya frowned slightly, but soon, frowning tightly, he evacuated. It seems that there is a ghost, then there may be a ghost, although I don't know how the Ghost Pillar knows that there is 12 Kazuki there. But the Ghost Pillar itself is a ghost, so it is not uncommon to be able to know some information about ghosts. It seems that there was nothing wrong with choosing Mew to be the pillar of the ghost killing team against all opinions. Involuntarily breathed a sigh of relief. At the beginning, when he chose to let the ghost, Mew, join the ghost killing team, he also experienced ups and downs and hesitated. After all, this is something the Yubayashiki clan have never done before, and it is something that has never been done in the history of Ghost Slayer. But he did it in the end. Nashin Spider Mountain. A barren mountain range far away from the town. Recently, because people often disappear from the vicinity of the Spider Mountain, few people dare to come here. But this night, there were two figures walking on the road leading to Nashin Spider Mountain. One is a very young girl with black hair and purple pupils. She wears a unilateral side ponytail. The tip of her hair is pink. There is an emerald green kochu hairpin in her hair. As the wind blows, the kochu on the hairpin looks like it's coming alive. The girl wears the standard uniform of the Ghost Slayer squad, with a knee-length black pleated skirt and white boots on her lower body, and a white cloak with a dark pink bow tie is often worn outside the uniform. It looks very cute. On the back of the girl is a slightly larger Nichiren blades, and in her arms is a cute little rabbit. Beside him, there is a boy wearing a black hat and a cloak embroidered with kochu. It is Su-Mew and Tsuyuri Kanao, tired. Su-Mew turned her head and looked at the flower that was about to fall to Chanaping. Kanao shook his head. However, looking at Kanao's forehead with a thin layer of sweat. Obviously insincere. Gently wiped off the sweat on Kanao's face with his hands. When his fingers brushed Kanao's cheeks, he could clearly feel the tenderness of his fiancée's skin. Like jelly. The fiancée's actions made Kanao's face instantly flushed. There was a mist in the beautiful purple eyes. Su-Mew hugged Kanao directly by the waist. There is always a creek. He just stopped. Place Kanao under a clean rock by the side of a stream. Rest here. Tsuyuri Kanao nodded. His face was still a little red. However, she did not rest. But when they came to the stream, they began to disembowel the hair, peel off its skin and hair, and then put it by the stream to wash it clean. I found some dry firewood nearby. Ignite. Use a twig to go through the rabbit meat and start to test it. Su-Mew has been watching from the side. This rabbit was caught on the way today. He thought it was Tsuyuri Kanao who saw the cute rabbit and kept it for play. After all, for a little girl at this age, it's normal to like such cute animals. They are all lovely creatures, why bother to embarrass each other so much? Amitabha. Su-Mew mourned for the rabbit in her heart, but she was looking forward to the rabbit meat roasted by Kanao. Recently, Kanao has started to learn how to cook. From being difficult to swallow at the beginning, to now, the things I make are getting more and more delicious. The girl started to work on roasting the rabbit meat, while his gaze was looking forward. On another rock by the stream, a man was sitting there quietly. The skin is very pale, with green eyelashes, white eyebrows, and a bumpy figure, with the immaturity of a girl and the style of a young woman. It looks extremely eye-catching. A woman who appeared by a stream late at night. Do not more precisely as in female ghost. Looking at the female ghost sitting there quietly, Su-Mew's golden eyes flickered slightly. This outfit, there is no wrong guess. It should be the gentle ghost mother. The role of the gentle ghost mother, given by the last string, the spider ghost, tired. The other party was also looking at him at this moment, with a bit of curiosity in his eyes, but also a bit of pity. This pair of people and ghosts who seem very close should not have come here. From the moment a person and a ghost entered Nashin Spider Mountain, they had already been noticed. And she, the gentle ghost mother, role given by Tired, is here to solve them. Tired hates people to disturb his life, especially when the family is eating. She wants to get rid of them quickly, otherwise after going back. Thinking of the violence she might encounter, the ghost mother's delicate area couldn't help trembling for a while. But when looking at the other person's harmonious appearance, There is probably no such harmonious person and ghost in this world anymore. A ghost like her could endure the greed of the ghost and not eat the little girl around her. She is a little envious, this is something she can't do. Once I was hungry, I lost all sanity, and everyone who appeared beside me, whether it was my relatives or not, would be eaten. Therefore, the gentle ghost mother didn't do it immediately, she thought. At least wait until they finished eating. At least I can eat enough, and then go on the road. Suyuri Kanao's movements are very deft, and soon, a roasted rabbit is roasted. Kanao handed the baked rabbit to Su Jong. The rabbit meat has been roasted. Su picked up the roasted rabbit, tore off a rabbit leg, and handed the rest to Kanao. Let Kanao eat the rest. Suyuri Kanao nodded heavily and began to eat. Looking at the sweet Kanao, Su-Mu's golden eyes flashed a touch of tenderness, then he raised his eyes and looked at the gentle ghost mother, who was looking at him quietly. All the information of the ghost emerges from the eyes. Name: Okawata Amiko Ghost Level, Evolution Ghost, Primary Ghost, Evolution Ghost, Lower String, Upper String, Ancestor of Ghost. Ability: Undead, Inferior, Control Puppets, Spider Silk, Super Healing. Disadvantages: Photophobia, Wisteria, Curse, from Kibutsuji Muzan, Nichiren Blades, Controlled, from Wule. Squinting at each other, Wooly, the last one, let you come over and attack us, right? Why didn't you make a move back? Quote. The gentle ghost mother was slightly taken aback. Obviously she didn't expect the other party to tell her why she came at a glance. Involuntarily, I stood up. I just want to wait for you to finish eating before doing anything. She said softly. Since you already know, I'm sorry. I can't delay a little time for your warm moment, otherwise. Thinking of the terrible end she might encounter if she was procrastinating, her body couldn't help shaking. It's really scary. Is it really what you want to be tired, controlled, and playing family games? Seeing the ghost mother, who moved her hands and stretched out her fingers together to hook the spider silk, he looked indifferently. As Su-Mu's words came out, the body of the gentle ghost mother trembled unconsciously. She obviously didn't expect the other party to know so much, so she couldn't help but glanced around in a panic. It was Tired who sent him over to test alone. I don't understand what you're talking about. Okawata Amiko was visibly panicked. Seeing that she is still a girl but forced to play the role of a gentle ghost mother, Su-Mu couldn't help shaking her head. I can help you get rid of the control of tiredness. For a moment, a glint of hope flashed in Tawada Amiko's eyes. But immediately, this glimmer of hope was buried by a greater darkness. No one can escape the control of tired. When I think of the spider web in the yard, the ghost who plays her daughter, because she escaped and wanted to escape from Nada Spider Mountain, is now tied up there, waiting for the sun to shine the next day, and a chill is felt in Okawata Amiko's generated from the bottom of my heart. I shouldn't have this luxury. Okawata Amiko shook her head frantically. The spider thread in her hand suddenly moved, and several big trees controlled by her fell at a crazy speed. Choke. A jet black sword light flashed past. It wasn't Su-Mu who did it, but Kanao who was eating rabbits just a moment ago. Kanao's speed was very fast, almost cutting off the spider thread that implicated the big tree in an instant. Although the spider silk that controls the big tree is extremely thin and ugly to the naked eye, it is not difficult for Kanao, who has excellent eyesight since he was a child, to see these spider silk. It's just that the spider thread was cut off in an instant. And as the spider silk was cut off, the attacking big tree was naturally out of control. Boom. The uncontrolled tree fell to the ground not far from Su-Mu. Give you a chance, if you seize it, I will spare your life. He looked at Okawata Amiko calmly. You are not the opponent of Tired, he is. 12 Kazuki. I came here just to kill 12 Kazuki, he spoke very calmly. In an instant, Okawata Amiko raised her head abruptly, with an incredulous and shocked expression on her face. As a ghost, it is impossible not to know the power of 12 Kazuki. He even said that he came here to behead 12 Kazuki. Can he really kill Tired? Cannot imagine. After living for so many years, being forced by tiredness, and playing with family for so many years, she naturally understands how terrifying Lu is. Although Tired as only the last one, it is a ghost favored by Kibutsuji Muzan. If you like your life like this now, then just pretend I didn't tell you. Su-Mu looked at Okawata Amiko indifferently. Okawata Amiko is struggling very much at the moment. How could she like the current life? Now, This kind of life is as painful as hell for her. These ghosts bound by tired, follow the. What is the difference between a tired request, a ghost playing the family game, and a captive livestock? Can you really kill tired? After hesitating for a long time, Okawata Amiko finally raised her head and looked at Sumiu with a hint of hope. I can feel that the ghost in front of me is very strong, but Okawata Amiko understands the horror of tired better. Rationally, she shouldn't have hoped for the ghost in front of her. Male but already had enough of the life in front of me. She wants try it once. That's why I'm here. Sumiu looked at Okawata Amiko calmly. Suyuri Kanao continued to eat the rabbit meat in his hand sweetly, and sometimes tilted his head to look at Amiko Okawata, who was reporting something to Maki. The house in front? After listening to Okawata Amiko's report, he murmured slightly. That's all the news I know. It's tiring, scary, and scary. Okawata Amiko's eyes were filled with panic. You've already chosen, haven't you? He turned his head and looked at Okawata Amiko. I have already chosen to resist, so why are you afraid of it? You don't understand. Okawata Amiko shook her head. You don't understand how terrifying tired is, and those who betray him, all will suffer severe punishments. Sumiu shook her head, but didn't say anything. For Okawata Amiko, the fear of tiring had already been engraved in her bones. It's just that I didn't expect to be so afraid. But finally the opponent still chose to resist. Let's go. After Kanao finished eating all the rabbit meat, he patted Kanao on the small head and opened his mouth. Kanao nodded heavily and looked at Amiko Okawata warily. I have to say, this ghost is beautiful. Of course, not only is it beautiful, but more importantly, temperament. The other party not only has the youthful and tenderness of a young girl, but also the mature charm of a young woman. It made Kanao vigilant. You. Stay away from Mu Zhong. Taking advantage of Su Mu's inattention, Kanao narrowed his purple eyes and bared his teeth at Oka and Amiko Wada. Okawata Amiko licked her tongue unconsciously. This little girl seemed delicious. There is a feeling of swallowing in one gulp. You'd better not get Kanao's idea, otherwise, you will die miserably. The light and fluttering voice suddenly sounded, causing Okawata Amiko, who had just had a thought, to shudder. Also, by the way, I hate things that eat human flesh. He turned his head and stared coldly at Okawata Amiko with his golden eyes. No matter what you were like before, from now on, if I find out that you cannibalize human flesh, I will cut off your head with my own hands. The cold gaze made Okawata Amiko unconsciously feel awe-inspiring. Okawata Amiko didn't understand why this ghost like herself hated eating human flesh. In fact, she also hated it at first, very, very annoying, but there is no way, the characteristics of ghosts, there is no way to disobey it. Once it's time to be hungry, all reason is gone. I try to control myself as much as possible. It's not about trying, it's about having to. Sumiu said very calmly. Okawata Amiko lowered her head slightly. Because, sometimes, it's not me who can control myself. Sumiu is silent. This is probably the characteristic of ghosts. Because of this, ghosts in this world can be evil in that company. It is also because of this that no matter how terrifying the evil ghosts are, there will always be people who will embark on the road of hunting ghosts. It takes courage to be a ghost hunter. Compared with the power of ghosts, human beings are too fragile. The difference between ordinary people and ghosts is like the difference between a moth and a candle. But why are there still so many moths who are not afraid of life and death, rushing to the candlelight and embarking on the journey of hunting ghosts? It is because ghosts always easily use the smell of blood to destroy the long-established happiness of human beings. Therefore, even before Ji Guoyuanyi was born, the ghost-killing team already existed. At that time, the ghost-killing team did not have the so-called breathing method, and simply fought with human flesh and blood. Generation after generation of resistance and struggle. Only when Ji Guoyuan was born, he joined the ghost-killing team. In order to improve the strength of the ghost-killing team, Ji Guoyuan taught the breath of the sun to the members of the ghost-killing team. It's just that the members of the ghost-killing team couldn't bear the power of the sun, and they couldn't learn the breathing of the sun. But the people of the ghost-killing team developed other schools of breathing methods based on breathing from it, including water, thunder, flame, rock, and wind, and other 5 basic genres. After that, the members of ghost-killing team created a variety of derived breathing methods based on these 5 basic breathing methods. The emergence of the breathing method has enabled the ghost-killing team to have a sharp weapon against ghosts, and gradually gained an advantage in the war against ghosts. If it weren't for the appearance of the breathing method, the journey of the ghost killing team to fight against ghosts would be even more difficult. But no matter how difficult it was, the siege team never stopped for a day. Generation after generation of ghost hunters die, but new generations of ghost hunters appear again. As long as ghosts still eat people and destroy the long-established happiness of human beings, then ghost hunters will appear from generation to generation. Entrust your life, and pass on the will to hunt ghosts from generation to generation. I will help you control your ghost nature. After a slight silence, he looked at Okawada Amiko and said lightly. Control ghost nature? Okawada Amiko is a little unimaginable. Without becoming a ghost, without experiencing that kind of uncontrollable desire, it is never possible to imagine the horror of ghost nature. Have you ever eaten a human being? After hesitating for a long time, Okawada Amiko couldn't help asking. No, Sumyu looked at Okawada Amiko calmly. Although he has become a ghost, he still remembers his identity as a human being, and it is impossible for him to do such things as cannibalism. Okawada Amiko's eyes widened, a little unimaginable. Is it because of her? Okawada Amiko pointed to Kanao next to Sumyu. Sumyu didn't speak, but raised her head and looked into the distance. The place had already arrived. On the side, Kanao's purple eyes were full of inexplicable joy, and he unconsciously grabbed Mu Yang's hand. Mu Zhong didn't eat people because of her. This moved her deeply. Although Kanao is still very young, but these time contacts, but also understand the truth. Ghosts are basically cannibals. Ghosts can hardly bear the desire to devour human flesh and blood. But Mu Zhong endured it because of her, and turned into a ghost that doesn't eat people. The little hand held Mu Yang's hand tightly. Kanao couldn't help shouting. Sumyu lowered her head and looked at Suyuri Kanawo, who was looking at her, feeling a little puzzled. Mu Zhong, if you can't bear it, you can eat Kanao's. Kanao's meat is delicious, and Kanao is willing to be eaten by Mu Zhong. Sumyu was stunned, a little dumbfounded, but still bent down, mouth close to Kanao's earlobe. I'm definitely going to eat Kanao, but on the night I marry Kanao, I will eat Kanao at that time. What he said to be eaten is naturally not the same as what Kanao said to be eaten. Aha. Kanao nodded heavily, although after being eaten by Mu Zhong, he will never see Mu Zhong again, but after being eaten by Mu Zhong, he will enter Mu Zhang's stomach, and he will be with Mu Zhong forever together. Sumyu didn't know that Kanao didn't understand his meaning of eat. At this moment, he had raised his head and looked at the houses in the distance. What catches the eye is the criss-crossing spider silk. A huge spider web fell on the top of a house, and a somewhat desperate female ghost is being tied up on the spider web above. Under the spider web, there are ghosts standing one by one. Spider dad, spider big brother, spider sister, spider brother, spider sister. And a short Xiaohui with white hair and the word Shawu engraved on his left eye. At this moment, the eyes of this short boy had already fallen on him. His eyes were indifferent. And as the boy looked over, Okawada Amiko, the female ghost who played the role of the gentle ghost mother, began to tremble uncontrollably, looking at the boy with great fear. No matter when, mother, you should protect your children. Instead of betrayal. Mom, you let me down so much. The short boy looked at Okawada Amiko's calm opening. What came into view was a desolate ancient mansion in the deep mountains. Although the mansion here has long been covered with spider webs, through some traces on the mansion, it can still be seen that this ancient mansion was once prosperous. Through the sign of the mansion, you can also see Mountain Ghost, 2 words. Presumably the family that used to live here should be the Mountain Ghost family. In fact, it is true. 100 years ago, the Shangdi family lived here, but for some unknown reason, they suddenly became lonely, and then the clan members began to die strangely one by one. Up to now, except for those who left Nashan Spider Mountain, the Shangdi clan has basically died out. And the instigator of all this was the short white-haired teenager standing there quietly at the moment. The last string, the spider ghost of the spider, tired. Lei, used to be the youngest son of the patriarch of the Shangdi clan who lived here, and was once the actual controller of the family. However, Lei was born weak at that time, and even had difficulty walking. He had never run. Even walking is a painful thing, which makes tired parents very worried. Until Kibutsuji Muzan appeared. Kibutsuji Muzan looked at Lei, and turned Lei into a ghost on the grounds that he had a similar experience with Lei. Tired, who became a ghost, has become very strong and can walk normally. This makes the parents of Tired very happy, but they are also a little worried. Tired seems to be unable to see the sun. Although the Tired Parents were a little worried because they couldn't see the son. They were still very happy to see that the tired body was healthy. But soon, Yuan's parents discovered that their son had started cannibalism. Seeing Lei constantly eating people and turning into a ghost, Lei's parents couldn't stand it anymore, so they decided to kill Lei and then commit suicide. But it's a pity. In the end, they failed to go to the underworld with Tired, but were eaten by Tired. Tired, who had eaten his parents, could not accept the reality. At this time, Kibutsuji Muzan appeared again and began to motivate him, so Tired eventually lost his memory. As the strength gets stronger, Tired feels more and more emptiness in himself, and at the same time, he gradually realizes that he seems to have lost some memories, so I want to grasp the fetters that once belonged to home more and more. Tired believes that no matter what happens, parents must protect their children, and big brother sisters must protect their younger siblings, even if they risk their lives. So a group of ghosts began to gather, and the game of home began, and all ghosts had to abide by the rules set by Tired. Those who were unwilling to play house games are cruelly abused. Some were cut into pieces with silk thread, some are tired and deprived of wisdom. Some were exhausted and hung up to die in the sun. Following the gaze of Tired, Okawata Amiko, the ghost who was asked by Tired to play the role of a gentle ghost mother, began to tremble uncontrollably, and her already pale face became more and more serious. Pale hair. There is a feeling of going to collapse. With just one look, Amiko Okawata was about to collapse. It can be seen from this that this ghost, who was endowed by Tired, and played the role of a gentle ghost mother, has experienced what kind of fear. Just when Okawata Amiko couldn't take it anymore, a figure stood in front of Okawata Amiko, blocking Tired eyes. It's a hypocritical feeling. He looked at the Tired on the opposite side. The fetters that he had lost in the past continued in such a ridiculous way. Does such a tie still exist? Tired pupils are still indifferent, but there is a touch of madness on his face. He hates when people say his fetters. No matter how many relationships you build, no matter how strong you are, you will never get true love and family affection. Su Mu looked at Tired and said lightly, "In your illusory heart, I'm afraid you can't even feel the illusory fetters you have established." With a touch of compassion. Although they have become 12 Kazuki, it is a pity that they have never been recognized, whether it is the era of being a human or the era of becoming a ghost. "Kill him, father, I hate him," Tired said to the man next to him. This is a male ghost, with muscles all over his body like the roots of an old tree, a big mouth, bared teeth as sharp as a beast, and fierce eyes. Just standing there gives one an extremely powerful feeling. This is required by Tired to play the role of a strong ghost dad. At this moment, the information about ghost dad also appeared in Suemu's eyes. Name: Takumi Yoshira. Ghost level: Evolution Ghost, Primary Ghost, Evolution Ghost, Lower String, Upper String, Ancestor of Ghost. Abilities: Undead, Bad, Control Puppets, Strange Power, Strong, Hard Skin. Disadvantages: Photophobia, Wisteria, Curse, from Kibutsuji Muzan, Nichiren Blades, Controlled. Ghost Dad, walked toward Su Mu with fast steps. According to the role given by Tired, this is what the strong Ghost Dad needs to do, and needs to deal with foreign enemies. Seeing Ghost Dad approaching, Guo Hua Luo Chana's small body couldn't help standing in front of Mu Zhong. Like a hen guarding her cubs. It's just that this little hen is still too young, and its combat effectiveness is too weak. He patted Kanao on the shoulder, although the current Kanao's strength is very good, and he is already ready to fight the evolution ghost. But obviously, it is not the evidence for the puppet in front of me. Patted Kanao's small shoulder. "Let me do it." Kanao obeyed Mu Chan's words, stepped aside unconsciously, and at the same time, handed over Nichiren Blades, who had been holding him all along. Looking at the faster and faster pace, the Ghost Dad, who was rampaging like a tank, giving people a powerful impact. Su Mu's eyes were slightly indifferent. He was very interested in this ghost's ability. Careful. Okawata Amiko couldn't help shouting. More than once, she was violently beaten by the other party by pulling her long hair. Several times, even her head was knocked off by the other party. The fear of this ghost has long been engraved in his blood. Seeing Okawata Amiko, who was trembling with fear, Su Mu's face was still calm. "It's just bigger prey." The very calm words made Okawata Amiko's gaze fall on Su Mu. Is such a powerful ghost just the prey of this ghost? But at this moment, the strong father ghost has rushed over, pulled out an extremely huge tree from nowhere in his hand, and smashed it like a mace. A black shadow floated across the sky. Now, Su Mu just raised her head calmly, looking at the giant tree that fell from the sky. Under the bamboo hat, golden eyes flickered with ripples. Draw the knife cut in an instant, the sword light spread. And quietly disappeared with the slight wind blowing, the black hair drifted away with the wind. Under the bamboo hat, the golden eyes shone with an indifferent light. Draw sword cut accompanied by a slight whisper. The raised sword blade crossed the ghost's neck in an instant. In the eyes of Okawada Amiko, Zung was extremely powerful, almost imprinted in her heart. Fear ghost. That's it. Beheaded. The flying head rolled to the ground, staining the ground with scarlet blood. The energy of the sun contained in Nichiren blades invaded the whole body, and in an instant, this one who was endowed by tired, and played the role of a strong ghost father, just like that, was beheaded. Did it just like that? Okawada Amiko raised her head involuntarily. Before, although she chose to resist, deep down in her heart, she actually held very little hope for this resistance. But now, this hope is constantly emerging in the bottom of my heart. He seems really able to help her get out of tired control. And the tired, who had been indifferent all this time, also widened his eyes at this moment, and a touch of panic involuntarily occurred in his heart. But he quickly calmed down. He is 12 Kazuki, the last one, a ghost who is not even 12 Kazuki. How could he not be an opponent? And as Su Mu beheaded the strong ghost dad, a clear and emotionless voice also came from his mind. Ding. Congratulations to the host. Kill one evil spirit, get the reward. Strange power. Strange power. Powerful force. As the voice fell, Su Mu suddenly felt an inexplicable warm current pouring into his heart and lungs. The power of ghosts is already strong, but now, they have strange powers, and now, he feels. I seem to be able to lift a mountain. Of course, these are just illusions, the illusory feeling of power emerging, but there is no doubt that his current strength has absolutely grown to an extremely terrifying level. Good basic ability. Su Mu whispered slightly, with a smile on the corner of her mouth, then raised her head and stared at the front. Next, it's your turn, 12 Kazuki, the last one, Spider Ghost. Tired? Yes. Tired, said indifferently. The white hair scattered over the left eye was blown up by the wind, revealing that commissioning. 2 words. Represents the highest glory of ghosts in this world. 12 Kazuki called by the ghost ancestor Kibutsuji Muzan. Tired, raised his hands, his 5 fingers spread out, and a transparent, hard-to-see spider silk emerged in his hands. You pissed me off. Tired, squinted his eyes and looked at Su Mu. I will kill you. Blood ghost art. Engraved line prison, with a flick of 5 fingers, a spider web appeared in the sky above Su Mu out of thin air, covering Su Mu. Under the bamboo hat, Su Mu raised her eyes slightly, quietly watching the falling spider web. Be careful, my lord, these spider webs are extremely hard, not even Nichiren blades can cut them easily. Behind him, Okawada Amiko hurriedly reminded. Yes. Su Mu murmured slightly. The blade was raised, and in an instant, a fiery red sword light slashed out. The spider web that Okawada Amiko said was almost as hard as Nichiren blades was cut off easily by him. Su Mu stepped forward. Towards the end of the battle, the spider ghost slowly used. Be obedient and beheaded by me, so that when you die, you will suffer much less pain. Seeing how easy he was to use the blood ghost technique, engraved lines, and cut open, Tired, was a little panicked. The 5 fingers flicked rapidly, like a flower rope, and soon a dark red spider web was woven. Compared with the previous blood ghost art, engraved line prison, this time the spider web thread has an inexplicable smell of blood. Blood ghost art killing eye cage, Tired, gritted his teeth. The blood-red spider web attacked Su Mu again. Breath of the sun 3 types. The red mirror of the sun. The Nichiren blades in his hand slashed out, and a crimson arc-shaped horizontal slash slashed out. Tear. With a crisp sound, the spiderweb was cut off in an instant. The strength of the two, from beginning to end, does not seem to be at the same level. With just a light blow, the attack that was carefully prepared by Lei was broken in this way. Although they are all 12 Kazuki, there are huge differences between 12 Kazuki. Although Kamizuki and Shazuru are both members of 12 Kazuki, but in fact, Umizuki's strength is beyond that of Shiazuki. Even, in the eyes of Kibutsuji Muzan, the ghost of the string can even be said to be a dispensable abandoned child. At this point, in the anime, later Kibutsuji Muzan summoned all the last quarter moons, and finally cleared them with his own hands, leaving only one last quarter moon, which can be seen in the demonic dream of the sleeping ghost. Get killed by me obediently, don't make unnecessary resistance, you should be clear that your strength is far inferior to mine. You can't kill me. Tired, squinted his eyes, otherwise, you will provoke the anger of that adult. As we all know, Tired is the ghost most favored by that adult. Kibutsuji Muzan. Sumyu looked at Tired and smiled, his anger must be useless to me, and I will cut off his head in a short time. Tired couldn't help staring. This ghost actually named out that lord's famous official. Sumyu doesn't talk too much, step towards it. And at this moment, Tired did not die on the spot, but flicked his 10 fingers, and countless spider threads flew towards Sumyu from all directions at the same time like a life-threatening blade. Blood ghost technique, reticle rotation. Belongs to the last string, the ghost of the spider. Tired, the most powerful vampire technique. Why bother? Sumyu murmured slightly, put her hands on her waist, and clasped her 5 fingers lightly. Seemed to move slowly, but at that moment, the time seemed to be elongated all of a sudden, as if time had a sense of stagnation at this moment. Draw sword cut at the moment when time seemed to be stagnant and everything seemed to stop for a moment, a sword slashed out. The dark red sword glow cut across. Everything was destroyed without a sound. The severed spider silk, and the head of the ghost of the spider from the bottom of the string. Since you have to resist, then I will fulfill you. The sword fell out of its sheath, and the head of Tired immediately rolled to the ground. Perhaps, 12 Kazuki's power is slightly stronger than that of ordinary ghosts. Although the energy of the sun left by Nichiren Blade's neck is fading away from the Tired body, it is not as fast as ordinary ghosts. Rest in peace, your parents are waiting to be reunited with you. Sumyu murmured softly. Parents? Tired stared suddenly, and in an instant, the long-lost memories seemed to come back all of a sudden. I have been playing the game of home all the time. What I want is actually to find the fetters that I lost in the past. What he saw when he devoured father and mother with his own hands. Even if the mother was eaten by herself, she still showed incomparable guilt. Father's determination to kill himself and apologize with death. It was the former self who personally destroyed the bond that belonged to the home. How could I be by my parents' side like this? Your parents have actually been waiting for you. Sumyu watched calmly, looking at Tired's head peeping slowly under the solar energy contained in Nichiren blades, with a hint of pity. Dad, Mom, are you really waiting for me? Tired murmured, his gaze slowly lost, and when he was wandering on the edge of hell, he finally saw his parents who had been waiting for him. Sorry. Tired was in pain, and was hugged by his parents. The energy of the sun contained in Nichiren blades slowly annihilated the Tired in the fire of hell. Sumyu seemed to see his Tired parents thanking him. Slightly nodded, watching all this. Farewell. And with the death of Tired, the familiar, emotionless, mechanical voice sounded in his ears again. Ding. Congratulations to the host, beheading an evil ghost. With the end of the battle, the ghost of the spider, Lei, was beheaded, and an emotionless mechanical voice rang in Sumyu's ears. Ding. Congratulations to the host, kill one of the evil spirits, and get the reward. Manipulate the spider silk. Manipulate the silk. Manipulate the silk to fight, if necessary, it can make the silk become as hard and sharp as steel, and even cut through Nichiren blades. The ability is not bad, but compared with beheading 12 Kazuki, the ability obtained is actually not very good, not much stronger than the ability to manipulate handball obtained by beheading Susumaru. Following the death of Lei in the last string, Suyuri Kanao also trotted to the side of Lei's body. Before the body of Lei had completely turned into black smoke and dissipated, he hurriedly drew a tube of bright red blood from his body. Take 12 Kazuki's blood and supply it to Tamayo for research. This is something that has been discussed with Shi before. Following the end of the string, the ghost of the spider, Tired died, and those female ghosts who were attached to Tired, and were required by Tired, and played the role of big brother, sister, and sister immediately fell to the ground, startled looked at him in fear. Forgive me. All the ghosts knelt down and begged for mercy. Sumyu looked at these plainly. Although they are all ghosts, Sumyu doesn't have much affection for ghosts, especially some evil ghosts that eat people. From the bottom of his heart, he will have a very uncomfortable feeling. After all, he used to be a human being, And even though he has become a ghost now, he still has a human side in his heart. When he sees his own kind being treated like livestock, he will feel very uncomfortable in his heart. Su Mu glanced at these ghosts, and then looked at the female ghost who was still tied to the roof, waiting to bask in the sun during the day. What's the matter with her? A cute female ghost dressed up immediately came over, knelt her head at his feet, and said in an incomparably flattering way. She ran away, was discovered by Tired, and then, Tired, wanted to punish her. Su Mu narrowed her eyes. The female ghost on the spiderweb, with bloodstains all over her clothes, looks exhausted. It can be seen that she has suffered a lot of torture before. If it wasn't for being a ghost and possessing an immortal body, I'm afraid that with such injuries, he might not be able to live for long. Of course, what Su Mu noticed was not only the injury on the opponent's body, but also the sadness in his heart. Choke. The icy sword edge streaked across. The spider silk sticking to the female ghost's body was cut off, and the female ghost also fell to the ground, making a painful muffled sound. Su Mu walked over. Looking at it from a close distance, this female ghost looks very delicate, with the immaturity of a girl, and her big eyes make her look very cute. And following Su Mu's gaze, the female ghost obviously felt very frightened. How did you find out? The little female ghost looked at the female ghost who was courting Su Mu just now. Let's talk. Su Mu said flatly. Yes. It's her. She told me that we wanted to escape from Spider Mountain together, and get rid of the control of you. It's just, I didn't expect that in order to gain the trust of Tired, she would give to Tired, snitch, so. The little ghost said carefully. And the face of the charming female ghost who had been lying beside Su Mu changed. My lord, it's not like that, she's lying. She did it because she ran away. She likes to run away the most. Even if my lord takes her in, she will not feel any gratitude, and will still think about running away. My lord, I'm different. I won't run away. I'll stay by your side. And, my lord, I'll give you whatever I like to eat. Do adults like to eat human flesh? The bewitching female ghost was a little flustered, and glanced at Kanao who was standing not far away. I'll catch this human girl for you, peel it off, and make it available for adults to enjoy. Choke. The icy sword edge slid across, and the female ghost, who wanted to harm Kanao, unconsciously held her nose. 4. Why did you kill me? Eyes full of confusion. She is so flattering. Why is she the one who killed? The energy of the sun contained in Nichiren blades quickly invaded the body, and this charming female ghost quickly turned into black smoke and dissipated. Ding. Congratulations to the host for beheading an evil spirit and getting a reward. Charming. Flattering. When you flatter others, there is a certain chance of gaining the pleasure of the other person's heart. Su Mu. And as Su Mu beheaded the female ghost with a sword, the other ghosts couldn't help but feel fear in their bodies. The two ghosts who were given the roles of Brother Tired and Brother Tired by Tired wanted to escape while taking advantage of Su Mu's inattention. It's just that after running a few steps, Nichiren Blade's cold sword edge has already slashed across. With a scream, the necks of the two ghosts were cut off by Nichiren Blades. The energy of the sun contained in Nichiren Blades invaded the body, and the two ghosts quickly dissipated in a plume of black smoke. Ding. Congratulations to the host for beheading an evil ghost and getting a reward. Half spider, half ghost. Half spider, half ghost. The upper body maintains the form of a human, and the lower body maintains the form of a spider, and can have 8 spider legs. Shaking his head, this ability is not very good. Ding. Congratulations to the host for beheading an evil ghost and getting the reward, spider poison. Spider venom. The venom secreted by the body can turn the poisoned person into a little spider without wisdom. This ability is not bad. After Su Mu killed 2 more ghosts, there were only 2 female ghosts who played Tired Sister and Tired Sister, and the gentle ghost mother, who brought him here before, Okawada Amiko. His eyes looked among the 3 ghosts. The 3 ghosts couldn't help trembling, for fear that Su Mu would kill them too. I hate ghosts that eat people. He looked at the 3 ghosts. Can you not eat people? The gentle ghost mother knelt down first. I don't know, I'm afraid I can't control myself. Sister Tired also knelt on the ground immediately. Once you are hungry, you really lose all reason. Tired girl, if it was possible, who would want to eat people? Su Mu was slightly silent. After all, she was born as a human being. If it wasn't driven by the desire of ghosts, how could ordinary ghosts be able to eat people? Looking at the 3 ghosts, although they were all afraid of him, they did not dare to lie to him. I'll give you a chance not to eat people? The three ghosts involuntarily raised their heads and looked at him. I happen to have a friend who needs the body of a ghost for experimentation. I hope the three of you can volunteer as experimental subjects. She's working on a way to turn ghosts into people. He looked at the three ghosts and did not hide them. Okawada Amiko lowered her head for a while, then raised her head suddenly. If we don't agree, the adults will probably kill us. Very smart. Su Mu did not hide that if they did not agree, he would indeed kill them. We've run out of options. Okawada Amiko smiled bitterly, then knelt down at Su Mu's feet. We are willing. Sister Tired also knelt down. Tired Sister also knelt down. Su Mu nodded, turned to Kanao behind him and said, make 3 wooden boxes, we should go back. I'm sure Ms. Tamayo will be very happy this time. After beheading the lower string team and the spider ghost, Su Mu started on his way back after being tired. This time, he specially came to Nashin Spider Mountain to kill the next team, the spider ghost. Tired, and it was only because of a bet with Wind Pillar, Shinazugawa Sanemi. Presumably, after the other party learned that he had beheaded 12 Kazuki, his expression would be very good. I am looking forward to what kind of expression the other party will have when I meet Shinazugawa Sanemi next time. While thinking about things, Su Mu turned her head and looked at Kanao, who was holding a small hand and carrying a small wooden box. Kanao, are you tired? If you're tired, can you carry that suitcase for me too? Although the box is not heavy, Kanao is still small. Not tired. Kanao raised his head, his pretty face was full of smiles, not fake. Seeing this, Su Mu couldn't help but nodded. If so, let Kanao memorize it for a while. Mu-chan, you are really good, but, in the future, Kanao will definitely work harder. Thinking of the battle with Mu Zhong and the next team, the ghost of the spider. Tired, she couldn't help Mu Zhong at all. This made Kanao a little bit disappointed, but immediately, his eyes became firm. Su Mu rubbed Kanao's soft hair with a smile, and said in an encouraging tone, then Kanao will have to work hard in the future. Aha, Kanao nodded heavily, his purple eyes were clear. At this moment, Su Mu also raised his head. Under the bamboo hat, his golden eyes shone slightly. In Kanao's eyes, he was very powerful. But Su Mu knows that this is not enough. Although his strength has already stood at a very high level in this world, there are still many who can surpass him. Not to mention Kibutsuji Muzan. There is also Winding 1 Kokoshibu in 12 Kazuki, Winding 2 Chapter Mills, Winding 3 Akaza. These are very difficult opponents. Therefore, he still needs to work hard. Killing evil spirits, relying on the system, and seizing the abilities of ghosts can indeed improve a certain strength. But there are too many complicated abilities, and now, they have already begun to have a certain impact on his strength. After all, when you are actually fighting, you will not be given time to think about which ability you use to fight is more appropriate. Now all he needs to do is to integrate everything together, to fully integrate the abilities obtained from other ghosts into himself, so that when facing a battle, when he uses these abilities again, he will be as fast as his own instinct. Wanting to understand these, he also began to read silently. Devil's Claw Ghost Eye Escape Manipulating the Handball. Red Arrow Strange Power Manipulate Spider Silk. Along the way, he uses these abilities while chatting with Kanao. Keep repeating so that these abilities can fully integrate themselves. Faster, faster, faster usage capabilities. Just walking like this, the place he and Kanapin passed was terrible. After all, some vampirism destructive abilities are extremely violent. For example, manipulating a handball. Where the handball was ejected, it was like a shell, causing the ground to be bumpy, as if it had experienced a war. The more you practice, the more proficient you become. It's getting smoother, his strength is improving. But this is not enough. At least, not enough to deal with Kibutsuji Muzan. Still need to improve higher. I am afraid that no matter how much these abilities are integrated, there will be no qualitative improvement. At this time, he couldn't help but think of the time when he was fighting with the last team, the ghost of the spider, Lei, and suddenly killed him with a sword he used at will. That sword just plain draw sword cut. There didn't seem to be any peculiarities, but at that time, when he cut out the sword, his whole mind became transparent, as if time froze at that moment. The only thing that is not stagnant is his own sword. The result is that the opponent will not really react until his sword cuts off the head of Tired. A sword that contains time? Do not? No, at that time, time was still flowing. Only the simple reason is that my sword was too fast, so fast that it seemed that time was frozen with this sword. He closed his eyes, and carefully felt the feeling of the sword before. Sunrise and sunset. No clue at first. But when holding the hilt of the sword in hand, a certain connection involuntarily formed in the heart, and the heart also became clear. Su Mu knew that this was his own sword ghost's compatibility with the sword. All along, he hasn't tapped his own strength too much, he can always faintly feel that digging himself is the best way to improve himself. For example, the Jigwo Yuanyi, who was once like the reincarnation of the gods and Buddhas. When he fought Kibutsuji Muzan, he cut 1,500 swords in 1 second. Killing 1,500 swords in just 1 second has already reached an extremely high level of difficulty. But Ji Guoyuanyi's 1,500 swords are not just 1,500 powerless swords, but 1,500 swords that can effectively cut. Compared with his seemingly extremely fast sword, it is completely incomparable. So can he do this too? Thinking of this, he could not help but narrow his eyes. In this world, there is only one person who can truly defeat Demon Slayer Suji Muzan, and that is Ji Guoyuanyi. As for Tanjiro, he can't do it. Even though, in the anime Demon Slayer, Tanjiro finally gathered the power of the ghost killing team to kill Kibutsuji Muzan, but Tanjiro was not a real beheader. Tanjiro was able to kill Kibutsuji Muzan only because Tanjiro dragged Kibutsuji Muzan until daytime, let Kibutsuji Muzan bathe in the sun, and danced around Muzan before he died. If you look at it in a real sense, it should be the sunshine of the day that killed Kibutsuji Muzan. Think here. Su Mu's golden eyes narrowed unconsciously. The top of this world is Ji Guoyuanyi, who is comparable to the living gods and Buddhas, and the only thing he can refer to now is Ji Guoyuanyi. Future, can I reach the level of Ji Guoyuanyi? A gust of wind blows. Su Mu feels that she wants to reach the level of Ji Guoyuan. The first thing to do is it can kill 1,500 effective slashes in 1 second. Backquote, 1,500 strikes per second are effective. Su Mu murmured. Holds Nichiren blades in hand. Choke. Cold glow out of sheath, draw sword. Cut, going all out, he can only make more than 200 effective slashes in 1 second. The distance is 1,500 swords per second, almost indefinitely. What's more, the further you go to the back, the more swords you cut out, and the more difficult it becomes. It looks like it really can't be done. It seems that only Ji Guoyuan, who stands on the ceiling of force in this world, can do it. But hands unconsciously clench the hilt of the sword. How will you know if you don't try? Then start with being able to slash 1,500 effective slashes in 1 second. Thinking like this, my mind unconsciously became more determined. There was no obstacle on the way back, and Su Mu returned to Kocho's house smoothly. At the same time, he conveyed the message that he brought back the 3 ghosts to the Master, Yubayashiki Kagaya. After all, he is now the ghost pillar of the ghost killing team, and he still needs to say hello to such an important event as bringing ghosts to the Kochu dance. Kocho House. Tamayo and Yushiru have successfully become the nurses here. In the beginning, people here had a lot of stereotypes about Tamayo and Yushiru. Not one member of the ghost killing team has never been persecuted by ghosts, destroying the long-established happiness. Even the ghost killers who came here for treatment, even if they endured the pain, would not let Tamayo receive treatment. At the beginning, the situation was very stalemate. Almost everyone was very hostile to the 2 ghosts, Tamayo and Yushiru. Until an accident happened. It was a ghost swordsman who was seriously injured. Not only did he not want Tamayo to heal him, but he also shot and wounded Tamayo. When the swordsman of the Demon Slayer squad was dying, Tamayo not only ignored the other party's offense to her, but also rescued him himself. This made the swordsman feel guilty. So, Tamayo began to take the initiative to treat his injuries. After recovering from the injury, he took the initiative to apologize to Tamayo. Not only that, but also took the initiative to promote to other 360 people that ghosts are not the same, and some ghosts are actually very good, such as Tamayo, such as Su Mu, who became the ghost pillar of the ghost killing team. At first no one believed him. But as Tamayo treated more and more people, slowly, the attitude of the swordsmen of the Ghost Slayer squad towards Tamayo and Yushiru also changed. From initial hostility to indifference to respect. Yushiru, who had been busy for a long time, raised his head and looked at Mr. Tamayo, who was seriously dispensing the medicine. He felt. Mr. Tamayo is really good looking. Very attractive. Clang clang clang, a crisp sound echoed. Someone knocked on the door. Yushiru frowned subconsciously. Didn't Master Tamayo treat a patient just now? Why? Someone came to disturb him so soon. Really hateful. Yushiru, go and open the door. Tamayo put down the medicine bottle in his hand, and said to Yushiru next to him. But Yushiru was not reconciled. Mr. Tamayo has seen a lot of patients today, he is already very tired and needs to rest. Go. Tamayo shook his head, eyes determined. Although I am very tired now, but Tamayo feels that it is very meaningful. Seeing Master Tamayo insisting so much, Yushiru had no choice but to go to open the door. Open the door. The moment he saw Sumiyu, Yushiru was slightly taken aback. Unexpectedly, it was Sumiyu who came over, and a hint of vigilance appeared unconsciously in the depths of his eyes. You know, Lord Tamayo has a good impression of him, which makes him very jealous. Is Miss Tamayo there? Sumiyu asked with a smile. In the house. Yushiru responded with an ugly face. He wanted to close the door directly to keep the other party out, but he didn't dare to do so. Take me there. Sumiyu ordered lightly. Although Yushiru was not reconciled, he still led Sumiyu obediently. Soon, Sumiyu saw Tamayo who was busy in the laboratory. These days, while Tamayo is busy treating the injured people of the ghost killing squad, he is also actively researching medicines that can turn ghosts back into humans. Just a pity so far, the blood of 12 Kazuki has not been collected much, and the research on the lack of samples has not progressed smoothly. Mr. is here. Seeing Sumiyu, Tamayo's eyes lit up. Sumiyu nodded and glanced at Tamayo unconsciously. Compared with the last time he saw Tamayo, Tamayo looked much more tired now. It seems that I have been busy recently. While research is important, you should also pay attention to rest. Nothing. Tamayo doesn't care too much. The ghost's body has unlimited physical strength, so it doesn't really matter whether he rests or not. I think it's better to take a break to find time. Although ghosts have unlimited physical strength, it's okay even if they don't rest all the time, but they will still feel tired, especially if the brain is always in the working state for a long time, in a state of confusion. Proper rest will make you more energetic and your thinking will become more agile. Listening to Sumiu's words, Tamayo was slightly taken aback, but he didn't expect Sumiu to understand so much. If you don't know about the other party, you might think that Sumiu is a doctor. I know, find time, I will rest. Tamayo nods. This is the blood of 12 Kazuki, the last member, and the spider ghost tired who were killed during this trip. I believe it should have a certain effect on your research. Sumiu took out a tube of blood. Hearing that it was 12 Kazuki's blood, Tamayo's eyes lit up. She is currently lacking research materials on 12 Kazuki's blood. Unexpectedly, when she fell asleep, someone gave her a pillow. Some were delighted to receive the blood in their hands, and began to study impatiently. Seeing that Master Tamayo was busy again because of Sumiu, Yushiru's eyes were gloomy again. This guy really doesn't let Tamayo Tianren rest at all. It's disgusting. Watching Miss Tamayo studying there, Sumiu took out another tube of blood from her pocket. The busy Tamayo looked up, looked at the tube of blood that Sumiu handed over, and was slightly stunned. However, he seemed to think of something, and his eyes couldn't help but brighten up. Is this also 12 Kazuki's blood? Tamayo asked with some doubts. It didn't look like ghost blood. Sumiu shook her head. It was human blood. Tamayo frowned. She didn't lack ordinary human blood, and she had collected a lot of people during these years of treating diseases and saving lives. There is no shortage of ordinary human blood. It's the blood related to the original swordsman. Sumiu said flatly. The original swordsman was Ji Guoyuan. As soon as he heard that it was related to Ji Guoyuan, Tamayo's eyes lit up instantly, but he was a little puzzled. The original swordsman, Ji Wei Yuanshi, has died for many years. How did he get his blood? As for whether it is related to the blood of the original swordsman, I am not sure, so I leave it to you to study, and maybe you can find something. Sumiu added another sentence. Tamayo nodded, and immediately began to study. When one of the drops fell into 12 Kazuki's blood, immediately, a violent reaction began. Generally speaking, when ghost blood is put together with human blood, ghost blood will devour human blood, but this drop of blood obviously does not. There seems to be some relationship between them. This blood is a little special. What amazing blood. Tamayo frowned, bewildered and amazed at the same time. Seeing Tamayo's reaction, Sumiu also thought inwardly at this moment. Sure enough. It seems that in the anime, Nezuko did not turn into a demon that devours human flesh, and, in the end, being able to bathe in the sun has something to do with his physique. He murmured slightly. Because, this tube of blood is Nezuko's blood. In the laboratory, Tamayo is conducting further research on Nezuko's blood given by Sumiu. Su Mu didn't understand these things, but from the expression on Tamayo's face, it could be seen that as the research progressed, Tamayo became more shocked and excited. Watching all this, Su Mu also probably understands that the other party's research should have made some breakthroughs. As far as Su Mu knows, in the original anime, although Nezuko turned into a ghost, he didn't become the kind of ghost who only knows the desire to devour. In the anime, it is not revealed why Nezuko was able to restrain the desire to eat people. In fact, it was speculation at first. Among them, his most impressive guesses are two. One guess is that when Nezuko was young, he ate blue biggin flowers, so, even if Nezuko turned into a ghost, he could restrain his desire to eat people, and he could become the only one in the world of Ghost Slayer who can bask in the sun under the ghost. Another guess is that the blood in Nezuko's body is inherited from the blood of Ji Guoyuanyi, who was comparable to a living god and Buddha hundreds of years ago. Both of these are extremely likely. Whether it is the blue bana flower or Ji Guoyuanyi, they are all extremely special existences. Bianhua is an extremely rare plant, and Ji Guoyuanyi is a person loved by gods and Buddhas. Leaving aside Ji Guoyuanyi for the time being, he was the one who stood on the ceiling of the Ghost Slayer world's force ceiling, and Zhang Yijin almost killed Kibutsuji Muzan. As for the news of the blue bana, it is rumored that thousands of years ago, when Kibutsuji Muzan, the first ghost in this world, was still a human being, the reason why he became a ghost was because he ate a medicine prescribed by a doctor. It's just that because of the lack of blue Bianhua flowers in this medicine, then Muzan, the ghost dance plan, turned into a ghost. Became the world's first ghost. As far as Su Mu knows, Kibutsuji Muzan has never given up looking for the blue bana flower all these years. Because, Kibutsuji Muzan thinks, the only way to eat blue flowers. He can bask in the sun. Tamayo put down the glass bottle containing the blood in his hand, put the blood away very carefully, and then raised his head, looking at Su Mu with excitement. How about it? Su Mu asked unconsciously. This blood is really strange. Tamayo sighed slightly at first, and then said with a hint of excitement, this blood and 12 Kazuki's blood seem to be able to complement each other to a certain extent. Complementary? Su Mu frowned slightly. You also know that ghosts are afraid of the sun, so ghosts cannot bathe in daylight. Similarly, the blood of ghosts has the same properties as ghosts. But, just now, I bridged the blood you gave me with the blood of 12 Kazuki. An extremely terrifying thing was discovered. Su Mu listened carefully, and had a faint guess in her heart. That is to say, the blood you gave me just now is fused with 12 Kazuki's blood, which makes up for the characteristic of 12 Kazuki's blood that is afraid of sunlight, which means there is a possibility. This fused ghost blood can be bathed in sunlight. Ghost blood can bask in sunlight, so mean. The same goes for ghosts. Hoo. This guess made Su Mu's breathing suddenly became short, which was a very shocking discovery. Because this means that if you continue to study, you will definitely discover new fields. Create a kind of ultimate ghost. What is the ultimate ghost? That is, ghost generals are no longer afraid of the sun. This also means that ghosts are one step closer to being immortal. When sunshine can't kill Oni, it also means that Nichiren blades can't kill Oni anymore. After all, the reason why Nichiren blades can slay ghosts is because the energy from the sun is contained in Nichiren blades. When the Nichiren blades cut off the neck of the ghost, the energy from the sun invades the ghost's body. But when ghosts can bask in the sun, the energy of the sun contained within the Nichiren blades is absolutely no longer a death threat to the Oni. And just as the two of them were guessing, a sharp panting sound suddenly came from outside the door. Obviously, someone overheard the news, because, too shocked, he couldn't control his breathing for a while. Su Mu and Yushiru looked outside the outer door vigilantly. You know, whether it is Su Mu, Tamayo, or Yushiru, they are all ghosts. To humans, they are monsters. Boom, the door suddenly shattered. The lights in the house are flickering, with black hair and purple pupils, wearing the uniform of the Demon Slayer squad, and feathers with a pattern of butterfly wings. Kochu Shinobu Maiden stands holding Nichiren blades and stands at the door. The sword is out of its sheath. Under the bleak moonlight, the blades of Nichiren blades glowed with icy cold light. The girl's purple eyes were indifferent. Sensing the opponent's hostility, Yushiru hurriedly stood in front of Tamayo to protect Master Tamayo. Su Mu still looked at each other calmly, and after a while, she seemed to understand something. Are you following me? Kochu Shinobu blushed. As soon as she heard the news that Su Mu had returned to Kochou's house, she made a special trip to find him, but she couldn't think of a way to meet him for a while. So, just follow quietly. It's just that I didn't expect to discover such a big secret. 1. Enough to destroy the secret of the Ghost Slayer squad. I will never allow you to research that horrible thing. Kochu Shinobu squinted his eyes, and an extremely dangerous aura spread over the girl. The killing intent spread on the girl's body. She was murdered. Clenching the handle of the knife with 5 fingers, at this moment, the girl shot violently. The light figure is like a flying Kochu, but its speed is extremely fast, and only a few afterimages can be seen faintly between actions. Before he knew it, Kochu Shinobu's strength was also improving rapidly. Insect breathing. Butterfly dance teasing. The movement is as light as Kochu, with a high-speed move that the naked eye can't catch up with, stabbing Tamayo's body continuously with the poison blade. All attacks are ready, but it stopped abruptly. Because Sumiyu stopped in front of Kochu Shinobu. If you continue to do it, it is very likely to hurt Sumiyu. Step aside. Kochu Shinobu bared his teeth, his purple eyes widened. Sorry, Shinobu. Sumiyu was helpless. I think, is there some misunderstanding between us? There is no misunderstanding, I have heard what you said. Kochu Shinobu was fierce towards him. I think you should listen to me explain. Sumiyu is helpless. I don't want to listen to your explanation. Kochu Shinobu bit his lip with his white and tender teeth, his eyes narrowed slightly, like a little tiger preying on prey at any time. If, forbearance, you really don't want to listen to my explanation, I'm afraid that your knife will hit me long ago, right? Sumiyu ignored Kochu Shinobu's threat, looked at Nichiren blades hanging above her head, and smiled playfully. You. Seeing the smile on this man's face, Kochu Shinobu gritted his teeth angrily. This dead ghost devoured her to death, making her want to kill this nasty ghost. But I just don't want to. Forget it, I will barely listen to your explanation once. I can't explain it clearly, I'll kill you too. He was still staring at her, fiercely, but his ears were perked up. Sumiyu looked at Kochu Shinobu, who was still in a fierce state, and really felt that this girl is cute and silly. After all, now, Kochu Shinobu is facing a ghost whose strength is far stronger than hers, so she is so careless and makes mistakes, it is really low level. However, just thinking that it is a bit stupid makes it difficult to appreciate. Sumiyu walked forward slowly, ignoring the Nichiren blades that Kochu Shinobu was waving, and stretched out his hand naturally, grabbing Kochu Shinobu's hand holding the knife. Hey, let go, or I'll kill you. Kochu Shinobu bared his small white teeth, like a little tiger, fierce, very dangerous. It seems that if you don't pay attention, he will pounce on you and bite you. Okay. Cut whatever you want, as long as you are willing. Sumiyu shrugged his shoulders and looked at Kochu Shinobu with some amusement. After all, for ghosts, as long as they don't cut their necks with Nichiren blades, they are almost immortal. Whether it is split in half, or a hand or foot is broken, with the ghost's powerful recovery ability, it will be completely healed soon. This is why ghosts are stronger than humans. Generally speaking, the ghost killing team is at such a disadvantage when facing ghosts, which also means that the ghost killing team should maintain stronger vigilance in hunting ghosts. For example, Kochu Shinobu now, when confronting the ghost, even let the ghost invade and grab his hand, which is really a big taboo for the ghost killing team. Kochu Shinobu in particular is an agile swordsman who is not known for his strength, but his speed. This is basically a sheep entering the tiger's mouth. Seeing Sumiyu not paying attention, as if she was determined that she would not dare to kill him, Kochu Shinobu was so angry that his teeth hurt and his chest was tight, and he felt that this ghost was really hateful. But I really don't want to let her cut it, humph. Little Nose let out a heavy hum, expressing his inner dissatisfaction. Playing around is playing around. Explanation still needs to be explained. When Kochu Shinobu listened to Suemyu's explanation, the murderous intent in his eyes dissipated a lot unknowingly. But still a little uncertain. You guys, do you really want to research a drug that turns ghosts into humans? At this moment, her eyes fell on Sumiyu unconsciously. Okay. Sumiyu nodded. Miss Tamayo guesses that Kibutsuji Muzan can be completely defeated only by turning Kibutsuji Muzan into a human being. Hearing Suemyu's explanation, at this moment, what Kochu Shinobu cares more about is not defeating Kibutsuji Muzan, but can turn ghosts into people. Then can you become a human? Kochu Shinobu pursed his lips and asked suddenly. Under the soft moonlight, the girl looked at Sumiyu seriously, with a look of anticipation in her purple eyes. Can I become a human? Sumiyu was taken aback, he hadn't considered this question before. Now, being asked by Kochu Shinobu all of a sudden, I am also a little at a loss. In fact, in the anime Demon Slayer, the drug Tamayo researched did work for Kibutsuji Muzan. But doesn't turn Kibutsuji Muzan into a human. Tamayo, the most breakthrough in the study of ghosts is the transformation of Yushiru from a human into a ghost. As for turning ghosts into humans, there seems to be no successful examples in anime. If there is one, it should be Nezuko. Therefore, it is not easy when it comes to turning ghosts into people. What's more, he is not a ghost in this world, and he is not the same as the ghosts in this world. Even if Tamayo really researches the medicine that turns a ghost into a human, it is unknown whether it will work for him. I do not know either. Sumiyu shook her head. Kochu Shinobu turned his head and squinted his eyes slightly to look at Tamayo. Is it possible to research how to turn a ghost into a human? Tamayo pointed to Yushiru next to him. Before, Yushiru was still a human being, and it was me who turned Yushiru into a ghost. Since a human can become a ghost, theoretically speaking, a ghost can also become a human. You turn people into ghosts? Killing intent emerged all of a sudden. Yushiru hurriedly stood in front of Tamayo, blocking Kochu Shinobu's gaze. This is what I asked. I asked Master Tamayo to turn me into a ghost. Kochu Shinobu's purple eyes looked at Yushiru seriously, and it seemed that there was nothing false, so he let out a heavy hum, which was considered to have revealed the matter. Turn around. Kochu Shinobu looked at Sumiyu with squinted purple eyes. Seeing Kochu Shinobu exuding an extremely dangerous aura, Sumiyu was slightly surprised. Didn't she just say that she exposed this matter? Why are you feeling still angry? Girl squinting at him. You. Why? To find her. As he spoke, Kochu Shinobu pointed to the world with his white and tender fingers like green onions. What? Sumiyu didn't understand. Asshole. Kochu Shinobu was quite annoyed. His little foot stepped on Suemyu's foot fiercely, and Sumiyu gritted his teeth in pain. Miss Shinobu should mean, why don't you ask her to study? Tamayo next to him probably saw something, and couldn't help but interjected. The girl was still squinting at him. It seems to be asking, why did you find another woman? Only then did Sumiyu recall that Kochu Shinobu was also a good doctor and a master of poison arts. Recently, he even extracted poison from wisteria flowers to deal with ghosts. It can be said that in terms of the method of dealing with ghosts, after Sunshine and Nichiren Blades, there is another wisteria poison D. Although Ninja's medical skills are also very good, they are still inferior to Ms. Tamayo. Sumiyu shook her head. It has to be said that Kochu Shinobu is very talented in medical skills, but compared with ghosts like Tamayo who have survived for hundreds of years, there is still a big gap. Whether it's experience, vision, or something else. Indeed, there is a gap. Although what Sumiyu said was true, Kochu Shinobu felt that Sumiyu was going too far when Sumiyu said that he was not as good as other women. You haven't tried. How do you know I can't do it? Kochu Shinobu walked up to Sumiyu. Now, she is a little shorter than Sumiyu. In order to highlight her strength, the girl stood on tiptoe. Although still shorter than Sumiyu, but this is already the limit. Squinting, staring at Miyu. You haven't tried it. Why do you think the picture is not good? The girl's delicate face was very close, and the breath of her breath also fell on her face, carrying a warm and fragrant smell. Or, haven't you ever tried to believe in Shishin? Very angry, or, to take it a step further. You don't trust Shinobu that much. Faintly, violent anger spread in Kochu Shinobu's eyes. Sumiyu was slightly silent. The girl's questioning made him a little guilty for a while, but more. He raised his head and looked at Shishin. You've already carried too much on your back. He said softly. You can't be saddled with any more stuff. What kind of reason is that? Kochu Shinobu muttered. But Sumiyu stretched out his hand suddenly and hugged Kochu Shinobu's waist. The girl's face suddenly turned red. Yushiru. Tamayo shouted to Yushiru beside him. Yushiru froze for a moment, then looked back at Master Tamayo in confusion. Tamayo looked at the two embracing people, moved his eyes unconsciously, and led Yushiru out of the room. Soon there were only two people left in the room. It's really, I don't know. What a shame. As soon as Master Tamayo walked out and closed the door, he heard discordant voices coming from the room. Yushiru muttered in dissatisfaction, and at the same time, a little envious. Eyes, looking at Master Tamayo unconsciously. But when Tamayo looked over, he dodged away again, and the love in his heart was deeply hidden in his heart. Soft bed in Suemyu's arms lies a girl with a red face. Although the face still has the immaturity of a girl, There is already a hint of the style of a young woman, and the whole person looks very beautiful. At this moment, she has long lost the viciousness of a young tiger with bared teeth. Now she, more precisely that is a docile kitten, no longer an angry little tiger with teeth and claws. From now on, you will follow a ghost from now on. Su Mu stretched out her hand and scratched the bridge of Kochu Shinobu's white and upturned nose, with a taste of joking and seriousness. I know. Kochu Shinobu buried his small face in Su Mu's arms. Ghosts are cold-blooded animals, and even their bodies are cold. But looking at the other party, he couldn't help but squeeze the other party's hand. Although I can't make any promises to you now, I will do my best to protect you. This is what a man must do, not a promise, but responsibility. A man's responsibility to his woman. You hateful ghost, who wants your protection? Kochu Shinobu blushed, but held Su Mu's hand tightly. It's better, Miss Ben will protect you. Seeing the domineering Kochu Shinobu, Su Mu couldn't help laughing. Kochu Shinobu's character is slightly domineering, but also has a hint of girlish cunning. Of course, there is also a trace of coquettishness, and of course, sometimes there is a trace of unreasonableness. Generally speaking, she is a little girl with a hard mouth and a soft heart. Such a girl, if you go against her, she will definitely be a ferocious little tiger, but if you go along, she will be an obedient kitten. After everything is over, Su Mu opened the door with Kochu Shinobu dressed. Tamayo stood at the door, looking at Su Mu with a smile, and Kochu Shinobu, who followed behind Su Mu, who couldn't lift his head shyly. As someone who has been there, although it has been a long time ago, Tamayo already knows what happened to the two of them through Kochu Shinobu's slightly awkward walking movements and the girl's never-before-seen aura emerging from his brows. I was somewhat worried in my heart. In this world, there seems to be no precedent for people being with ghosts. Except Giwu's greed for cannibalism, which Giwu can't restrain. In addition to the almost immortal life possessed by ghosts, and the short life of human beings, it may be difficult for anyone to bear the aging of their loved ones step by step, while they still maintain a youthful posture. So, for the two, Tamayo is actually not optimistic about them. But now that the two of them have broken through that level of relationship, they have already made such an awareness, so naturally they won't say much, they can only wish that they can grow old together. Walking out the door, Su Mu nodded to Tamayo, and then said very naturally, in the future, Shinobu will also participate in your research. Tamayo was slightly surprised, but nodded anyway. For a while, Shishin will trouble you to take care of it. He looked at Tamayo, please. I will. Tamayo nodded. What's more, Ms. Ninja also has unique insights in medical skills, and getting help from Ninja is also beneficial to my research. Hearing what Tamayo said, Su Mu also turned to look at Kochu Shinobu. Our research, I hope that, forbearance, can't help but tell others. I know. Kochu Shinobu nodded. Regarding Su Mu and Tamayo's research, the things involved are serious, and the less people who know about it, the better. In particular, it actually involves the feature of ghosts can get rid of the fear of the day, which is simply shocking. If the ghost killing squad finds out, the research will definitely be stopped, or even destroyed. As a member of the Demon Slayer squad, she should have reported the information immediately, but Kochu Shinobu didn't. Apart from the fact that the ultimate purpose of this research is to deal with Kibutsuji Muzan, the most important is this research can turn ghosts into people. And Su Mu is still a ghost now. Deep down in her heart, she still has selfish intentions after all, and, now that she is personally involved, she is confident that she can control the situation. Su Mu wanted to say something more, but he suddenly raised his head, stretched out his hand, and the fluttering raven landed on his palm. Opening the envelope tied to the letter Crow, Su Mu's face changed slightly when he saw the writing on it. What's wrong? Kochu Shinobu asked with some concern. Your sister has been sent to the Bliss School of the World, and Toi Motoshiki Kagaya wants me to help. Su Mu explained the contents of the envelope. I know this. Kochu Shinobu looked at Mu with some doubts. His sister Kochu Kanae told her when she was performing the task. I need to leave now. Su Mu's expression turned serious. Su Mu will never forget how Kochu Kanae died in the anime Demon Slayer. However, she died at the hands of Doma, the ghost of ice. However, the leader of the Eternal Bliss cult is none other than Doma. Looking at the seriousness in Su Mu's eyes, Kochu Shinobu also realized that the problem might be more serious than he imagined. Shall I go with you too? Kochu Shinobu held Su Mu's hand unconsciously. Kochu Shinobu was very worried about his sister. It's okay, I'm fine. All you have to do now is to conduct research with Ms. Tamayo. Su-mu patted Kochu Shinobu's little hand. Although Kochu Shinobu is a little reluctant, she also understands that it is more important to conduct research with Tamayo. After all, she is also very worried about the research here. This kind of, maybe involves, being able to make ghosts become less fearful. Daytime. Study, it was too scary. I'm leaving. During this time, Kanao will ask you to take care of me first. Su-mu waved to Kochu Shinobu. I see. Kochu Shinobu nodded, somewhat depressed in his heart. Even if she was asked to take care of his fiancé, wouldn't he be afraid of being jealous and give it to your fiancé? With Su-mu gone, only Tamayo, Kochu Shinobu and Yushiru are left. Tamayo walked behind Kochu Shinobu. At this moment, Kochu Shinobu is still thinking about his toes, and his eyes are still looking at the figure who has been away for an unknown time. Tamayo yelled softly. Kochu Shinobu couldn't help turning his head, and looked at Tamayo puzzled. Actually, it can be seen that you are very hostile to ghosts. Even now, you are still very hostile to us. Kochu Shinobu's purple eyes narrowed involuntarily. For ghosts, she is resentful, because it is a ghost that destroyed her happy home, so she hates all ghosts, wishing to kill all ghosts in the world. I really want to understand why Miss Ninja is the only one who doesn't show any hostility towards Mr. Is it because Miss Ninja likes Mr., so there is no hostility? There was doubt in Tamayo's eyes. Because Mew is different from you. Kochu Shinobu raised his eyes and looked at Tamayo. Have you ever eaten people?